Okay, I got the red smoke.
Gun runs north to south, west of the smoke, west of the smoke.
Okay, copy. West of the smoke. I'm looking at danger close now.
Come on with it, baby. Give it to me. I need it. You're cleared hot.
Copy, cleared hot.
You made it, Oscar.
I made it.
You
finally
made it. Shall we do it?
You asking me? I'm ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
Let's
How?
do it.
I don't think Jesse would mind if we said that he was the one who connected us. I think he'd be okay with it. How do you know Jesse James?
You know what? I know Jesse from the car scene, first of all.
Okay, that actually makes sense.
Yeah, and but I wasn't really like I wasn't anybody that he would kind of recognize or whatever. It wasn't until they did a documentary on my life.
Yeah, which I watched last night, by the way.
Oh, okay. I'm glad. Did you like it?
It's a lot.
It is a lot.
And we're talking about the same documentary where one of them was it was a drug runner in Texas, marijuana runner in Texas.
Right.
And then it was I want to say priest, but that's not the right word.
A Catholic nun.
Catholic nun. That's what it is. I thought it was fantastic. It's a lot to digest.
Right.
When they were showing the pictures of the barrels with the large holes placed in them, and they talked about how 5 gallons of diesel can disappear a human being from planet Earth.
Right.
And they stuff them in head first.
Right.
And the guy with the neoprene mask on was saying he couldn't eat chicken for a month afterwards. It's like, okay. It's a lot, man.
It is a lot. And a lot of people don't realize, like, for example, yourself with, experience in the Middle East, I imagine, and all that.
Yeah.
You see that over there, right?
I never saw that.
Well,
I'll be honest, that type of, you saw violence, and you saw indiscriminate violence, and you saw a culture that valued life very differently.
Right.
I mean, there was 30 of those barrels sitting around in one of these, what did they call them? A cartel kitchen?
Right.
Yeah, they weren't cooking steak. Well, I mean, I guess depending on what you like to eat, but I mean, they were cooking people and disappearing them off. Yeah, that's, I never saw that.
Yeah, they call them the pozoleros, the people that, pozole is a traditional Mexican stew. Mm-hmm. So that's what they say, they're making pozole. Which I have a funny story about that, but we can get that into later. Right? But we have a million stories that I can claim. Yeah, but Jesse saw the film, liked it. My sister lives in Austin, so every time I go out there, I'll swing by and talk to him and shoot the shit. Look at all the cool stuff he has.
God, I met him just when he did that first show with him with Ironclad, and I had not met him before. Had watched a lot of the TV stuff that he had done years before,
right.
Just all of the motorcycle stuff, without a deep appreciation for it because I wasn't really riding at the time.
Right.
And he couldn't have been cooler. I didn't, sometimes you don't know what to expect. You see somebody who's kind of in that orbit, like are they going to be cool, kind of cool? Are they living in left field? They have no reality attachment.
Right.
And he walked me through the whole thing.
Down to earth guy.
Down to earth guy, but also what a craftsman. I couldn't, if you gave me the rest of my life, I could not produce something like that. I just don't have that gene.
Yeah, you either have it or you don't. It's like being like an artist, like a painter, like you either have it or you don't. But yeah, I mean, excellent guy. Was funny. Last time I was there was for Thanksgiving. I spent Thanksgiving with him up there. Mm-hmm. And the first time that I had gone to his shop, the new shop in Austin, he was a workaholic. I mean, he would get up at 4 a.m, work till midnight. And I started talking to some Mexican guys because they were there, right, for the Thanksgiving thing. And they were like, yeah, ever since he married his wife, he says, man, it's good because like by 4 or 5 o'clock, he's telling us to shut it down. He says he became a much cooler dude, right?
So he was working his people to death.
Yeah, he was, and they were like, well, he was paying us, but still, he was just like, one of them said he actually left and came back when he heard that he had mellowed out, and so he mellowed out. So
yeah,
that's a good thing for him.
Yeah, and he connected us, which is
definitely
which is awesome. Today's episode is brought to you by Black Rifle Coffee. Spring doesn't negotiate. It just shows up, clears out what's dead weight, and forces growth. That's the energy right now. Out with the old routines, in with the higher standard. Black Rifle Coffee didn't discover discipline when it became popular. They were founded on it. Built by veterans who understand early alarms, quiet reps, and doing hard things without applause. If you're moving, training, traveling, putting in work before the sun's up, their ready-to-drink cold brew is built for that pace. Just black, clean, direct, zero distraction. Vanilla, smooth, controlled, still all business. No prep, no waiting on a machine. Throw it in your truck, your go bag, your range kit. It's ready when you are. And when that throttle needs to open up, Grab a Grape X or Wild Frost from Black Rifle Energy. 0 sugar, 200 milligrams of caffeine, no crash, no spike and burn nonsense, just sustained output. This isn't branding. It's fuel for people who refuse complacency. New season, new light, sharper edge. Go straight to blackriflecoffee.com and stock up direct. Black Rifle Coffee, veteran-founded, American roasted. Raise your standard. Back to the show. So yesterday, I mean, what do you think? You're in El Paso.
Right.
You're at the airport. They cancel for, what did they call it, a special security reason?
Right.
So I hop online too. 10-day cancellation, which I have never seen anything like that, closing the airspace. And then they started reporting not UAP, because that's unidentified aerial phenomenon, drones essentially. Right. Uh-huh. What do you think it actually was?
Well, you know what, like drones is nothing new, right? It's nothing like all of a sudden, the cartels are using drones. It's been happening, right, for years. And I think CBP Border Patrol has a pretty good understanding and grasp of what's going on. The official word was that the drones were shot down by Border Patrol. Mm-hmm. They said the military at first, but actually it was equipment. From what I understand, from what my source told me, it was equipment that was loaned to Border Patrol from Department of Defense.
Interesting.
And there was some soldiers there, whether it's National Guard or I don't know what they are, but there were some people there. It's either one or two things. We're discussing it. It was either a cartel drone or a UAP, right? Which we're hearing that a lot. And just the fact that they shut it down and they shut it down so quick was eye-opening for me.
And said 10 days to initially begin with.
Not even after September 11th they we experienced that. It was eye-opening. I mean, a source that gave me a little bit of information said that his feeling was that it was just a couple of young Border Patrol agents and a couple of soldiers that thought it was funny to use this laser thing to shoot down balloons, and the FAA somehow. And I mean, you don't know, but it was everybody was scared. Everybody was scared. Like I sent you a picture. I locked and loaded. I was
you gotta be ready to go, man.
And I was like, hey, let's do it. But it opened up. And
speaking of being locked and loaded, how much concern do you have, if any, about retribution from people like the cartel, given the proximity you still live in that area and the job that you used to have?
But to be honest with you, I don't matter anymore. You know what I'm saying? It's not like I'm out there investigating.
Do they feel that way though? Or do they hold a grudge?
No, they hold a grudge, and it's apparent from you'll see it from this podcast. Whenever I do a podcast or do an interview, you'll see the knuckleheads that will comment. We're gonna get you and all this stuff, but it's just that they're aligned with the cartels, and I think that for me, I've explained it before because people have this misconception about cartels, what they see in the movies, right? That if you're doing undercover, you're doing a UC deal, or if they found out you're a federal agent, they're gonna come after you and kill you, right? And that's not necessarily true, right? Like countless of times I was dealing with these knuckleheads, and they might have gotten an inkling that I was a federal agent. They just won't talk to you anymore, right?
They just back away.
Yeah, they're like, they don't want to go to jail. They're like hoping, like, oh, shit, I hope this guy doesn't have, enough evidence to put me in jail. So for the most part, they won't. And I'm talking about stateside, right?
Yeah.
You go to Mexico, you go to Colombia, other places, that might be a different story. But even then, like, they understand that going after a U.S. federal agent, even a retired U.S. federal agent, is going to bring in some heat that I don't think they want. And so it kind of, like, believe it or not, it kind of protects me to be in podcasts, to be on, on CNN or whatever I'm doing, because, like, I don't want a knucklehead that wasn't, like, a high-ranking member of a deal that I did. Maybe he was just protection or something, and that guy gets thrown into jail, and, he's thinking, like, how the fuck, did we get arrested? And then they look at me and say, oh, that's the guy, that's the truck driver, and they want to, come after me for retribution at that point. So I would rather them know who I am.
Yeah, I can see that. Having a little bit of a public-facing persona could actually be protection in that way, for sure. Yeah, I think it would draw... I hadn't thought about it from that perspective. Yeah, if you kill an active federal agent, you are going to have just about every microscope thrown in your direction. Would they even... And obviously we'll go deep into the cartels because I'm fascinated about your experience. Would a low-level person or a foot soldier for the cartel even have the authority to make that call? Or would they need to go up the chain for that, knowing that much scrutiny would come back at them?
Most definitely. They would need they would need authorization from at least a plaza boss. The area boss, and they would be the first ones to say, "Are you stupid?" We're going, like, no.
That's a lot of heat.
It is a lot of heat. It is. I mean, I've had several instances in especially working in Mexico, in Monterrey and Juarez, where it was actually the plaza bosses that protected you as a U.S. federal agency from other plaza bosses because they didn't want heat.
Okay, I hadn't considered that either.
Yeah, so yeah, it was a weird situation in Monterrey, where Monterrey and San Pedro Garza Garcia, which is kind of like the real rich area in Mexico, San Pedro Garza Garcia, is separated by a huge mountain and a tunnel in the middle, right? At that time, San Pedro Garza Garcia belonged to the Beltran Leivas, right? Monterrey belonged to the Zetas. So we had done a couple of operations with DEA and ATF in Monterrey where we were hitting these guys pretty much, hitting them, hit after hit after hit. Well, the Zetas got tired, and word went out that they wanted to get one of the U.S. federal agents on the San Pedro Garza. So they called as a courtesy, hey, we're going to go kill one of these guys because they've been hitting us or whatever, thinking that the other cartel guy would be like, yeah, go ahead. And he was like, no, fuck, no, you're not going to come in my plaza and heat it up.
Yeah.
So he actually had dispatched his men to watch our residences and watch our places that we ate. And I remember that time it was real weird because you could tell you're doing counter surveillance. Like, man, they're following me, but we kind of figured out who was who, and it wasn't until about a year after I had left that we found out that it was him, Hector La Burra, that was kind of protecting you guys, and
he was your outer perimeter of security.
Yeah, exactly. He was actually, because he had gotten arrested, and he was actually saying like, hey, am I going to get credit for saving your agent's life? And he named specific locations, specific situations, and I was like, oh yeah, I remember that.
Damn.
I remember being on a date with a young lady from Monterrey there, and I remember there was weird situation because there was once you could see vehicles parked, right, and several men but it was like two different, it was like on two different sides of the parking lot. I remember walking in, I said, nah, we walked right out, and that was one of the situations that was mentioned. Like, yeah, I remember, like he even remembered what color dress a girl was wearing. So that's how I knew. I was like, oh, wow.
Man. I was reading an article about the documentary, and it said that when you were approached with the idea that you didn't feel like you were a good fit for it. You're like, my life is totally normal. What experiences do I have to share? And it wasn't until you were in the process of making the documentary that you realized you had have had some very abnormal life experiences in comparison to most people.
You know what, Andy? Like, even to this day, I don't feel like whenever I get called, like with, when Jesse told me you were going to call me, I said, yeah, of course. But I don't feel, because, okay, let me explain why. Because there are agents right now, right, that have been working undercover for years. You're talking about decades. Personal friends of mine that I think their story is way more compelling than my story, right? And unfortunately, they can't tell their story because they're working covertly, right? They can't come out and speak. They don't have the platform that I do, right? I was lucky enough that when the producer had asked headquarters for a subject matter expert on cartels, I was already kind of like a senior level guy, or second level supervisor. So I was trained to talk to the media, right? For news, like, hey, we had a seizure or whatever. When they approached me, I said, well, I mean, I don't think that my story is that interesting, but you can ask headquarters, and if headquarters says yeah, then me thinking like there's no way headquarters is going to say, yeah, we're authorized this guy to speak, freely on. To my surprise, they were like, yep, they gave the producer full access, and they followed me for a while, and like like the conversation, and you in your line of work, right? Like when you're speaking to a colleague, you're talking about situations that you guys have been through that just seems normal to you guys, but to the general public, they're like, are you kidding me? You know what I'm saying?
And I've had that experience. Yes,
you've seen it, right? So it's like I was talking to a colleague of mine that we were in Monterrey together, and his wife was there, and my wife were there. Years later, I got married, me and him were just reconnecting on our time in Monterrey, and he was telling me, oh yeah, remember this guy? Yeah, what happened to that guy? Oh yeah, he got killed. And we're like, okay. And then, oh yeah, remember this guy? Oh yeah, he got killed. So a bunch of the colleagues that we knew were gone, right? But then we turned and looked at our wives, and they were looking at us like, do you realize?
You're a sociopath.
Yeah. Do you realize what you guys are talking about? And to us, it was like it was normal. We're just talking about
just having a shrimp cocktail.
Right. Exactly.
I'm remarried now, and my wife didn't know me during my time in the military, and so I'll reconnect with guys that I haven't seen in years, and I'll catch the look on her face sometimes when we're at dinner. 'Cause same thing, we're just having a casual conversation or talking about something that we found to be hilarious at the moment, that you realize might be considered socially unacceptable.
Yeah,
so we're dying laughing, and my wife is just looking at me like I'm an animal in the zoo.
And I know the look. I know. I've seen it. You know what I'm saying? I've seen the look. And so, I mean, it might not be like, I don't feel like my life has been that much, because like I tell you, there's agents right now that are still working, that have worked, a lot more covertly than I did.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, they can't tell their story.
They may never be able to, because it might give away the means and methods that they're able to do their job.
That's exactly right. And that's something that I'm very conscientious about, not giving, tradecraft secrets on that. So I'm very careful on exactly what I say, because I mean, there was a couple of, and I'm not going to mention any names, there was a couple of books that came out about undercover agents, working specifically like motorcycle gangs, stuff like that.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Right. Yeah. And they give up a lot of trade secrets, right? Like I was reading the book and I was like, whoa, you know what I mean? Like, especially like with your backstopping, right? Like with the history that is made. Now being a private investigator, like if I would have read that book and I would have given me, without even having ever been a special agent, a private investigator by itself it's like a go-to guide on how to discover covert agents.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they made their money. They made, a lot of stuff, a lot of movies and stuff like that. But at what cost,
And you can tell those stories without giving away those trade secrets too. There are ways that you can talk around stuff where it becomes obscure. You don't have to create, because I know exactly what you're talking about. I mean, if you can figure out your way through somebody's origin story or what they present themselves. But I also can't even imagine in the modern digital era what it would take to truly create for somebody like a fully backstop story. That has got to be damn near impossible.
They're good at what they do.
I bet they are, but I mean, that's probably a full-time job in and of itself.
There's a unit. I don't know, and I'm speaking from my experience in undercover ops. There was a unit that was dedicated just for that, backstopping, running your name on your actual name on Google or something way before it, and they would actually identify stuff that might compromise you and take it out.
Yeah, I feel like undercover work was easier in the 60s.
Oh, most definitely. Yeah.
When you had a paper identification card.
right, and they taped the wire to your
I feel like that would have been uncomfortable to wear physical wires like that. Whew.
It wasn't the most.
I feel like it's tough to explain. Oops, I accidentally put this wire on myself.
Put this wire,
yeah. Sorry.
I mean, there's. I think those days are long gone, right?
How could they not be, given what we carry around in our pockets all day long?
It used to be like whenever we would do an undercover meet at anywhere, like at a bar in El Paso or at a strip club or whatever, because that's what the knuckleheads would be like. Hey, let's go. And red-blooded American, we'll meet there, no problem. But then the girls would come and they would hug you, and you could tell. I knew what they were doing because I would do the same thing. I would be like, hey, when this guy shows up, go see if he's
totally.
So it's when those things went away, it was a good feeling.
Yeah. What if if it was, let's assume in El Paso it was cartel drones,
right?
What would they have been using them for? Just scouting to see where Border Patrol may be so they could run something by there? Or is that something that they use just to kind of keep a pulse on what's going on the northern side of the border? Yeah,
they want to know, how many vehicles, are up. And from what I understand, it was close to shift change. So they want to know, because shift changes, they change. They wanted to know, just intel. But a lot of the times they actually do drop packages of coke and meth and with the heavy drones.
That makes sense. Yeah. Michael, could you do me a favor? I want to get your thoughts on this tweet from the White House.
Oh.
Please find for me the White House tweet that says there have been 0 precisely 0 illegal crossings in the last 8 months. This is the White House put this out. I'm just curious your thoughts, given your background.
0? I think that's impossible.
I just wrote, hey, cool story. Have you been to any northern states recently? But literally from the White House, 0 confirmed illegal crossings in 8 months. I don't understand how that ever hits the publish button.
Well, there's a lot of things that I don't understand how it hits the publish button. Right?
Find it, Michael?
Recently.
Is it on the White House Instagram? Or,
It might. You could probably look on mine. Go back. It's not on Instagram. It was on Twitter or X, whatever you're supposed to call it.
Whatever it's called now. Yeah, but I think that's impossible. I mean, it's very very hard to maintain 100% security of the border, right? Because there's so many areas. You know, there's from San Diego. Yeah. There's so many areas that are porous.
There we go. 0 illegal border crossings over the last 8 months. If you were a betting man, we don't have to say whether or not it's true or false, but if you are a betting man, would you go on there probably has been more than 0, or 0 is the correct?
I would bet that there's probably been more.
Who uses numbers like 0? It's impossible.
Yeah, you never corner yourself and that's something that like I'm gonna say I'm a registered Republican, right? I'm a conservative. I'm not gonna hide that, but I always try to stay in the middle to say this is right, this is wrong.
Yep.
I think that a lot of the messaging that's coming out from important people, from DHS secretary, from the White House, it's like they're not thinking about the repercussions of just putting something out and then they have to come back and retract it. You know what I mean?
Which nobody pays attention to the retraction. They pay attention to the headline.
Right.
It begs a deeper question. Are they even capable of thinking about the long-term consequences of what they're saying? Because I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right.
I firmly believe in calling balls and strikes. I don't care what political party you're in. Like, I leaned towards the right on a lot of issues as well too. But some of the social issues, I'm probably more a little bit on the left, depending on what it is. Like, live your life. Like, don't prey upon children, and I'll leave. You know what I mean? Like, pedophiles should be burned at the stake, and other than that, like, you can live your life. I don't understand how people have become so ideologically blinded that their team is more important than the reality.
Yeah.
Like immigration policy as an example. I think we should enforce our immigration laws. A lot of the stuff I see coming out of Minneapolis, the tactic is not helping anybody, nor is it making our country safer. It's actually probably driving people in the middle towards the left from a voting perspective. So the policy, I support. The execution of the policy, I feel like we have some clowns in charge, and I don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, it was a horrible optics, to say the least, right?
Yes.
I think that you're right, that immigration laws, any federal law, should be adhered to and should be enforced, right?
And almost nobody would argue against that.
No, nobody should, right?
Yeah.
Nobody should argue against you taking a pedophile that raped children away from your neighborhood. I just think that the way that it was presented and the way that it was that they were enforcing specifically the people that they put in charge operationally on the ground, right? Because I keep saying this name over and over because he put himself in the forefront, Mr. Bovino, right? Mm-hmm. Like he was
the head of, or is the head of Border Patrol still?
Well,
correct?
He's the head of Border Patrol in San Diego sector, right? But
Gotcha.
but at the time that the enforcement action started, like in Chicago and Minnesota and stuff like that. First of all, there's been a quota put in. I don't care what the administration wants to call it. If they want to call it, operational objectives or whatever, it's a quota, right?
It's a head count.
Yeah, 3,000 people arrested, no matter what, right? No matter what, 3,000 people per day. That's a lot. That's a lot, and the people that were in charge of those operations, the ICE supervisors, were getting a lot of pressure to come up with those numbers. And when it wasn't happening, that's when they said, okay, we need somebody that is going to be more aggressive, that is going to really, make a dent in this. And that's why they put Mr. Bovino. But you got to understand, he's a Border Patrol agent, right? He's a Border Patrol agent. It's in their name. They're not trained. And even though they keep saying like, oh yeah, we were trained at the academy on how to deal with protests and all that, and how to do interior enforcement.
I literally read that this morning. That Border Patrol has more training than ICE does, and they were basically saying that ICE has little to none when it comes to that type of training. Right,
and the reason but it's different because the reason that Border Patrol goes through that, because I've been a Border Patrol agent, so I know the reason that they go through the protests and all that, it's like there's been a lot of incidents along the border where the ports of entry are completely shut by protesters, right? So Border Patrol, had the responsibility to, kind of push back, make sure people don't like just rush into the United States. And so that's the kind of training that they're talking about, right? Like it's one thing to patrol, a Paso del Norte bridge in El Paso than to, do that type of stuff in Minnesota, right? And I think just the optics of the way that they were operating, even and I go as far as saying even like the wardrobe that was being used, right? That long trench coat, like that he was wearing, that left a lot of people with their eyes open, right? And that thing hasn't been authorized that I know of since I was in the Border Patrol. We weren't authorized to carry that. So I mean. Yeah. They took that. It
was very bizarre, like the red background imagery, the low camera angle. Like, what actually are you going for here?
Right?
Oh, God.
Yeah, there you go. And like, look,
Michael, third row down on the left.
He's a tactical commander. I'm sure you know about BORTAC, right? The border. Mm-hmm. He's a BORTAC.
BORTAC person,
right?
guys, yeah.
And those guys are alpha male, kick down doors type of people. I mean, that in itself, that is terrible optics, right? And
if you were him and you were talking to a photographer, how would you describe this look? It's like, hey, here's the picture I'm going for. Crazy red lighting.
Yeah.
I want it to look relatively similar to some stuff in the 1940s, but also not like the 1940s. Yeah. It's like, what the hell? Jesus, Michael, what are you looking up now? What?
I mean, it was just like I said, Andy.
It looks very similar.
Okay. Take it easy. You're at a 10. I need you at a 3 right now.
It was terrible optics, right? And not only
optics.
that, like when I first started taking issue with this was when they got ordered by the federal courts in Chicago to go answer. I don't remember exactly what it was, why they were going door to door, whatever, right? And he came out of the courthouse and he got on top of his vehicle and he did the charge, thing like and you're thinking like, man, you're in Chicago, right? You're not going to war, right? You're not in like just the verbiage that they're using, like theater. Some of our agents have been in theater for a year or two. Like theater, like really? Like you're talking about doing enforcement in the United States, right? You're not talking about doing enforcement in or going to war in Iraq and where they're really in theater, right?
Yeah.
Like that's a terrible, to me, like I was stating before, like a lot of the senior management, it's like they haven't taken, because I remember taking courses on how to deal with the media, right? Like, hey, you don't corner yourself. And if there's an officer involved shooting, you don't right off the bat say, hey, this guy's a domestic terrorist, he chose, what I mean?
It's a rough look within hours of the no chance to do an investigation of any kind.
You don't say that, right? And like I said, that's like public relations 101. What you say is like, it's another thing that they said was like, I think that they were asking, just in the congressional hearing just recently, the last couple of days, I don't remember who they asked. I think it was the CBP commissioner. They asked, do you feel bad that Mr. I forget his name. Mr. Preddy was killed? I can't answer that. I mean, that's terrible optics. You can say anybody losing their life is horrible. Yeah. Anybody under any circumstances. Unfortunately, the investigation is still going on. We need to find out what's going on before I can comment on that. I'm not authorized to comment on it because the investigation. But you can humanize it and say like, yeah, anybody losing their life, whether it's an agent, whether it's a protester, whether it's an agitator, whatever you want to call. Any person losing their life senselessly, because that was a senseless situation, I think. Really, you can't say that? And I think that's what's leading to a lot of the American people kind of distrusting Homeland Security. Because
they're pushing people away from where they want them to. And I don't mean physically, I mean ideologically. I think they are pushing people away from support of those organizations. And we need those organizations to survive as a nation.
Yeah, most definitely. I mean, like I was in Homeland Security from its creation, 2003, and we were the new kids on the block, right? It took a lot for us to compete against DEA and FBI because nobody knew us, right? Like we would go somewhere and badge somebody like we're ICE, and I'd be like, what the hell is ICE? I remember doing an undercover deal in Chicago, and I had my brand new ICE badge, and I was like, okay, and I got pulled over, And I showed my badge, and they were like, "This is fake. What is ICE?" You know, like so from 2003 to 2025, we built HSI did, at least the special agents built a excellent reputation. I mean, we went after Chapo, we went after like these high level people. Mayo was a HSI arrest, all this high ranking guys. So we did a lot. Within the last 10 months, we've taken a beating because like you can tell people just for people that I know, like people, relatives and people, business owners in El Paso, they call me and they're telling me like, "Hey, what are you guys doing?" Like, this is the third time they've come and checked my people, and they're all legal and they're hurting my work. And it's just like the whole optics of that was horrible and it's like you guys don't, like, you're not teaching public relations anymore, and public relations, I mean, they should be able to say like, "Hey, you might not want to say that," right? Because I remember even with the documentary, I had a person sitting right there like, "You can't say," you know, because it's the proper thing to do. You don't want
for your protection and the agency's protection as well.
And the agencies, right? But you don't corner yourself right away. "Hey, he's a domestic terrorist," because like the retraction was horrible. Now you guys are covering it up. Now, you know what I'm saying? So
do you think they're being told to talk and behave in that way, or they have just selected people where that's maybe their default way of acting and speaking?
I think that a lot of them are acting the way that they think President Trump would act, right?
To carry favor
and say, "Hey, you know what? The president has my back. I can say this," and a lot of it is like I knew Bovino from way back, right? I don't, it's not just now that I know about him. He was never like that. You know what I'm saying? So why not? Why? Maybe I didn't see him in the media that much because he really wasn't. But just seeing him the way that he was acting was like, wow, that's pretty weird. And just the whole optics of it were horrible. Just what, North Carolina, what they were doing. And I get a lot of heat. I get a lot of heat from Border Patrol agents. They're like, "Hey, you're a lefty now or whatever." No, I'm telling it like it is. Like you saw the optics in North Carolina. There are documented cases where it's just Hispanics that are legitimately working, that are United States citizens, that you would see Border Patrol just reach out to them and be like, "Hey, do you have papers? Are you a United States citizen?" Well, I mean, like, you shouldn't be able to racially profile, right? That's ingrained in your training, like, hey, you can't racially profile, but now apparently the Supreme Court says that you can. So I'm wondering, like, okay, so because I'm Hispanic, or like an example, my mom's a United States citizen. She's she wasn't born here, she naturalized, but she supports any president that's her president, no matter who it is. That's her president, and she's all about law abiding and all this. And she's now like, "Mijo, I need my passport. I need my passport because I don't speak English." She doesn't speak English. She's a United States citizen, doesn't speak English. She's afraid of going to the store and getting not picked up, right? But getting hassled.
Encountered, yeah.
Right. So she had me rush for her passport because she's that scared. Now, my mom is scared. You know what I'm saying? Like, and she's a law-abiding citizen. She has, I imagine just people that are out and are brown like me, and that I'm gonna get racially profiled because of that. That's horrible. It's horrible optics.
Yeah, I think the Supreme Court essentially said is if those federal agencies are acting in an immigration enforcement role, they are allowed to approach somebody and ask that based off of how they look, which is, whew.
Right, and I see how I see how they would interpret that. Like, if I'm hitting a house, right, I'm doing an arrest on a known gang member or whatever, and I go in and there's people there, residual people, like people that are the collateral people, right, that are there, and they look like they look Hispanic, and you're going after a Hispanic gang member, right? I could see how you could say, "Hey, like, what relation is it to you?" But that's in conjunction.
That's a targeted assault on an area that you've derived intelligence about and you've planned.
That's exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, those are people who are very close to the ecosystem with somebody that you're targeting for a crime.
That's exactly right. And the way that it was being interpreted, and the way that it was obviously from the incidents, is that we can just talk to you because we think you're Hispanic and you might not have papers, or we think that you're from Nigeria, or we think that you're what I'm saying, and that's profiling. And I think that. Like I said, I'm getting a lot of heat from Border Patrol agents, not so much from HSI and ICE agents, right? But because of the fact they're saying like, oh, like you should be backing the badge no matter what, and I do. Like I'll back federal agencies 100%, except when I see something wrong, and it's my duty to call it out.
That's the best way that you can show actually support for a person or an agency, is to call the balls and strikes.
Right.
The fastest way to erode integrity in these agencies is to do the exact opposite and claim that it's impossible for them to hold a fault or do anything wrong.
Right.
Like you're done. I am a deep supporter of law enforcement.
Right.
The role that they have is so difficult. It's harder than the role I had because I at least went overseas to do my job, and I would be gone for months at a time. And I would like, I tell people, it's like you go to your job and you clock in, but you can clock out. The people who are working law enforcement or first responder, they're driving every day. Like, there was a fatal car wreck right there. I had to pick a kid up off. They don't get to escape where it is. And all of the guys and gals that I know, if something happens and it's on their day off and they're there, they're still getting involved in it.
Right.
It's so difficult. What do we got here, Michael?
A ruling that, in a roundabout way, kind of says that racially profiling is okay.
Well, I mean, I don't know where this came from, right? The AIC, right there. This endorses ICE and Border Patrol targeting any Latinos they observe in Los Angeles, speaking Spanish or working low-income jobs. And demand. I mean, that's kind of that's racist if you think like only Hispanics work low-income jobs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, you're basically you're.
There was recently an individual that got arrested. It was a super. I don't know if you saw it. It was somewhere in, I want to say Chicago or Iowa. He was a superintendent of a school district, like a huge school district, making hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Oh, I do remember seeing this. Yeah,
he was an illegal. I
think he was Somali.
Yeah, undocumented. So I mean, how are you gonna determine, right? How are you gonna determine who you're gonna reach? And I think, like I've said, and I've said it. I'll say it again till I turn blue, is that there should never be a quota on law enforcement, ever, right? No matter what it is, no matter if it's parking tickets, no matter if it's, whatever because then what you're forcing the officer to do is you're losing that discretion, right? You're losing that because like if I'm a ICE agent now and I go into a house and, I see, 10 people and 4 of them are elderly, like normally I would be like, hey, the elderly, here's a notice to appear. You need to appear with the immigration judge. But now they're just picking everybody up, and it's like they lost their common sense. Like that kid in Minneapolis, right? I mean, he was a young, and apparently they knew who the dad was because they were doing surveillance on him. Like, common sense would tell you don't arrest somebody in front of their kids. First of all, it's horrible for the kid, right? Like that kid's gonna be traumatized. But nonetheless, like it's dangerous. What if there's a shootout? What if the dad gets scared and takes off in the car, right? What do you do then? And it's just, I mean, me as a supervisor on the line, now if that situation was like, no, absolutely, now we know where he lives. Let's wait till he's by himself and arrest him.
Yeah, put the tactical advantage in your favor. I feel like a quota drastically misaligns the incentives. It breaks the person from, like you said, the discretion. And if they have this numbers guillotine over their head, they're going to start making decisions based off of that, as opposed to what either doctrine says or what is right.
Right, and that's exactly right. That's you were seeing a lot. What was happening? I mean, now where Tom Holman is in Minneapolis now,
just announced in the next week he's going to end the enforcement action there.
Right, and I mean that's the administration's way of saying like, hey, you know what, we were wrong in that. We were wrong in the tactics that we were using, and like I said that before. I did an interview with CNN. I remember, but I specifically, and I'm not saying that they did it because of me, but I'm saying it's common sense that, like, especially like the mayor in Minneapolis and the governor, like if they really wanted ICE to stop these operations, then cooperate, which is apparently what they're doing now. Allow us in your prison system. We'll have agents there. We used to have a very robust ACAP program, right, where we had agents in jails, county jails. And anytime somebody came up that was not born in the United States, because they've already been identified by the cops, they have to punch in, he was born in Mexico or Canada or whatever. Well, those people were put on a detainer, right? And so now you're dealing with...
That makes total sense.
Right.
You've already caught them one time.
Right. It makes total sense, and that way you can deport him or put him to immigration proceedings from the jail. You're not out in the public, putting the public at risk, putting the agents at risk. But unfortunately, these sanctuary cities, that's another thing about sanctuary cities, Andy, is that a lot of people say, well, it's a sanctuary city and, we're a kumbaya, it's all, but it happened with the Cubans, right? We don't have relations with the Cubans, with the Cuban government officially. Yeah. So whenever a Cuban is arrested for a serious crime, right, and he's ordered deported, we can't deport him because
we have no mechanism to do
right.
so.
So then you go through a process, kind of like a parole process, where you get the Cubans and then you ask them, hey, are you going to commit a crime, whatever? No, of course not. Well, a lot of these, and I'm not just talking about Cubans, but I'm just saying I saw it firsthand, is that a lot of these guys that were criminals were being released, and they weren't staying in El Paso. They were going up to Albuquerque because Albuquerque was a sanctuary city. Because if you're a criminal alien, right? If you're an alien that is committing crimes, that you're a knucklehead, you're a gang member, you're whatever, right? Where would you want to be in Dallas or in El Paso, where if you get encountered by the cops for whatever reason, they're going to call ICE, or you're going to go to Albuquerque, where the cops by policy are not allowed to call immigration authorities. Of course. Yeah. I mean, so
Albuquerque.
So inadvertently, these sanctuary cities and these people that are advocating for sanctuary cities, you're attracting the criminal element. Yeah, you're attracting the majority of the people that are there to work and to contribute to society, even though they're illegal. But you're actually, because you're attracting that criminal element. And that's why, it's a good thing that they were trying to enforce the immigration law, but the way that they went about it was totally, it was horrible.
What is the argument against the ACAP system? Because to me, that seems like efficient law enforcement, a bridge between local, whatever reason they're caught up in the net.
Right.
They get identified, probably put into a system, and it's like, hey, immigration being a federal issue, like, boom, now you're onboarded to the federal system. Like, why? What's the argument against that?
I don't know how it happened, Andy. I don't remember the exact policy because I stopped working immigration a while back when I started doing other stuff. I think it had a lot to do with the administrations at that time, that they were, a lot of people were saying like, hey, he only had a DUI, he only, so there was a lot of, it had to do a lot with the changes in administration. I'm not going to name any names, but that's probably what happened. But I mean, it's perfect sense.
They didn't like it because the other team's jersey was currently in the Oval Office, essentially. I heard a lot about that too. I've had some people in federal systems reach out, because I've talked about what's happened in Minneapolis a little bit, only at a surface level, because honestly, a lot of the information that comes out seems to be BS, or it's too fast, and you can't listen to things. What I definitely don't pay a lot of attention to is the first hour or two when things are reported, because it's almost always completely incorrect. Right. But I have had a good amount of people reach out and say, yeah, one of the biggest differences is that in the previous administrations, when it was somebody from the Democratic Party who was in the Oval Office, these cities were participating in the immigration enforcement. Come on in. Here's our system. Here's the names. Here's the addresses. Now the other team is in office, and it's the exact opposite.
Right.
And I'm not one to sit here and try to place blame, but come on, people. And that's what worries me more than anything, is this ideological shift in people where they can't see past their team color, and they forget that, at least in theory, both the blue and the red team should be playing for the red, white, and blue.
Right.
That should be.
They should. You would think so.
Oh man, I think we're, to use a term Michael would like, edging towards losing our ability to have that realization. And I don't know what happens if we get to that place where it's only, one team or the other. I'm like, people calling for civil war. I'm like, are you telling me you're going to bang it out in your cul-de-sac with your neighbor because they have a different campaign sign in their yard?
That's ridiculous. Just think about it, Andy. Like a few years ago, if you would talk about that, it would be like, what are you smoking? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And now it's not that it's becoming a reality, but more and more people are talking about that, and like I said, what happens from here, I'm curious to see what happens now with Minnesota, right? Now that kind of like, I'm not saying that the governor conceded or the mayor, because I don't want to put words in, I don't want any backlash, but like it looks like they're cooperating. Well, let's see. Like really, now let's see. Is it really going to work? Are they really going to cooperate and we're going to go after the worst of the worst? Or are you going to see what happened, what happened here repeat itself somewhere else.
Well, I think, and this is something I try to tell people too, like I'm not an expert in criminal behavior, but I guess, and this is my theory, you let me know if I'm wrong on this, like we'll use the cartels, something you're an expert in. I don't think they all come to a clubhouse and put a pin in the wall on a map where they're going to be hanging out. No. They're hard to find. Right. So I want to believe that we have federal agencies that are absolutely doing their best to find the worst of the worst. But those people are probably more savvy electronically, a little bit of feel, right? You know what I mean? Right. So it takes some time. So two things can be true at once. They can be executing, in my opinion, horribly tactically executing a larger enforcement action where they're still looking for the worst of the worst. They're just harder to find, So it's, I hope we don't lose the forest for the trees in this. I'll be real curious. The Minnesota one, I think, is kind of done, and that's just going to be a stamp like, okay, that's how that was. I'll be real curious to see what the next one looks like.
Where it's going to be,
where it's going to be and how it's going to be conducted.
And I have a feeling that the next, like if they want to do an operation, like when they call it, it's going to be in a city that's favorable to, is favorable against, for working, alongside the local authorities, because I think they took a public relation hits with that, and I think they need to reverse that.
Problem with that would be they'll have less impactful results because, as you described, if you give people an opportunity, where are they going to go? Where they're likely to find more scrutiny or less, they're going to matriculate over to the less scrutiny. Right. So it's like
it's a catch-22.
It's like shit. We're not getting the results that we're looking for. Do you have any idea? Obviously, other than like the level of the people who are in charge. And I'm sure it's a mix of both, but like your frontline Border Patrol or ICE agent, how are they feeling about this? Because I suspect they're probably not able to vocalize for themselves, at least publicly, how they may feel about the execution of the policies.
No, and you know what? Like, I'm glad you asked that question, Andy, because like since this whole shooting stuff and going on in Minnesota, I've been speaking out. People have asked me, and I think there's a just from friends, from people that I consider friends that are in Border Patrol and friends that are in ICE and HSI, you're right. They can't speak, right? Because they're not authorized to speak. They can't even put a post, because if they put a post that's not aligned to they're going to get called into the office. But when I started posting about how I wasn't agreeing with the tactics that were being employed, overwhelmingly Border Patrol agents that were friends were like, they were the ones that called me out. Like, hey, why are you saying that? Like, you're not backing us? Like, like, are you a lefty now? Or, all this stuff, right? ICE agents were kind of neutral. Some were like, yeah, we need to do more enforcement. Others were like, we need to do, more tactical intelligence. HSI agents were more upset, and they kind of voiced it with me just because they were being pulled from important cases, right? They were being pulled from investigating, cartels, human trafficking, child pornography, all that stuff. They were being pulled to kind of augment these teams in the city. So obviously their investigations were hurting, and that's not what they're trained to do, right? That's not why they signed up to be a special agent. And people say like, well, they have immigration authority. They can enforce immigration law. Well, yeah, they do. But I've always said it's the equivalent of a local police department, that is pulling homicide detectives, away from those investigations so they could go do an operation against jaywalking. Or, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, they're authorized to do it, but is that a good use of the funds that you're being entrusted by the taxpayers?
And what's sliding through the fingers because you don't have the manpower to pay attention to on the other side of that?
Right.
Downstream consequences of those choices. Because head count is head count, right? You can apply it however I guess you want to, but the outcome is not going to necessarily be the same.
Right, most definitely. I mean, like, in the way that the administration, and I know I said something, I don't remember where, but it was posted, and they answered back saying, we're still conducting these investigations. We're still targeting, high level. Our mission is still the same. HSI is. And yeah, but I mean, common sense tells you that if you're pulling a special agent at 5 a.m. to go do these raids, and you're working him till 5 p.m. trying to get these numbers, right? Mm-hmm. By the time it's 5 o'clock, very few agents are going to be like, yeah, I have the energy to go do surveillance on my case, somewhere else, right? So it's obvious that if you're not paying attention to what your primary duty is and you're being pulled away from it, your investigations are going to suffer.
Yeah. Yeah, we all have 24 hours in our day. Even though I saw a really weird video one time of this guy saying, he's like, my first day is 8 hours. And then I do another, you know what I'm talking about, Michael? He's like, I've done 3 days by the time you get up for lunch. And I'm like, what? That's what I said too. I was like, okay, dude, internet is a very weird place.
It is.
It's the best, worst thing. That's the way I heard it described. It's the best, worst thing ever.
That's true.
You know, I couldn't be more supportive of Border Patrol and their mission. But if you step on your dick tactically and I don't call a ball or a strike on that, then I'm actually not supportive of you. I'm ideologically blinded.
Right.
And any of these agencies, they're a group of individuals. And individuals make mistakes.
Right.
And that's okay. But if you want to maintain the integrity and trust of the people that you're supposed to be serving, then you better be honest about when you do a good job and a bad job.
Right. And you know what? I think, like I was telling you, that a lot of Border Patrol agents were calling me out. They don't understand that I was actually trying to defend them, because it's not fair for them to be put in that situation.
Yeah, they're being asked to do something they're not trained and equipped to do.
And to them, to most of them, I can see, you know, sometimes it's a boring job in the border, right?
Yeah.
You're staring at a camera, or you're staring at the border waiting for somebody to cross. So it's a boring for them to be pulled away, and now they're doing, you know, they're getting per diem, they're getting overtime, they're in the city, you know, away from the border, you know, they're following their leader, you know, so I can see how it's fun for them, right? But being put in a situation like that is unfair to them, and that's what I was trying to convey. Like, you know, because even in that whole Petrie shooting, like you've been OC'd before, right? Yeah, and I mean, part of our training is OC. Well, they made sure that you stand at least 5 feet. You know, you don't want to shoot somebody directly in the face, because like I went through that in training where it damaged my corneas. Right. Yeah. To this day, I have problems with my eyes, but like it's something like why would you shoot somebody in the face? Just, you know what I mean? And I'm not trying to just, because I wasn't there. I can't put myself in that situation. I don't know why they feared for their life that they had, you know, to shoot, but you know, and that wasn't the only instance. I've seen, you know, that pepper spray was being used, you know, by the commander, by Bovino, you know, shooting pepper spray, doing the gas.
Anytime I see a commander, and this is including my time in the military, if I ever see the boss on a weapon system of any kind, we have a problem.
You run.
Because, yes, that is, let me just assure you, the least current human being on whatever they are holding in their hands in the moment.
Well, yeah, that's not their. That's not
100% not their job.
That's not their duty. That's not their job. That's not what they're trained to do. And I mean, like I said, Border Patrol was like, hey, yeah, that's our leader. That's what we're going to follow. And I think that once they started, you know, going back home and realizing that, you know, it's not what their main job is. Like I said, it's in their name. It's Border Patrol. They stick to the border. A lot of it also stems from when Homeland Security was created. Border Patrol used to have special agents within Border Patrol. They were plainclothes guys. They did a lot of good work, a lot of investigative work. So they had investigative authority, you know, inside the United States also. And when Homeland Security was created, the lines were defined, right? The roles were defined. Border Patrol is going to stick to securing the border. ICE, enforcement and removal, is going to stick to doing interior enforcement, tactical interior enforcement, and HSI was going to be the investigators. But ever since then, Border Patrol has had an issue with that because, you know, it took away their power and kind of relegated them to the border. And since that time, you know, and I know that from experience working in the field with my agents, that it was always a mission creep. They were always around, and you know, they lost their special agents, but then they started intelligence units. Oh, their intelligence plainclothes unit, which they were out there investigating. A lot of times they ran into investigations that we were conducting. You know, it's just, I think that when this situation happened, it was just Border Patrol's way of saying like, hey, maybe we can regain those authorities back and get more leverage in what we do.
What are your thoughts on, I hear this one a lot too, how the agents, and it's hard to tell specifically what organization they work for, but basically the way that they are able to protect their identity. Some people say they're out there, and I look at the pictures. If you're looking, you can clearly see they're identifying themselves as law enforcement. Right. Is it always the same identification or the same level? No. But them protecting with wearing masks. What are your thoughts on this?
I don't have any problem with that. And I don't, because just of the job that we did, right?
Yeah.
Like 99% of the time where we did a search warrant in El Paso and the borders, we were masked up because you don't want this knucklehead remembering you. And, you know, like I said, you're not going to remember everybody that you encounter, but they're going to remember you because you're the guy that that caused them to go to jail or hang. So they're going to remember you. So yeah, there's a lot of instances where agents were identified at the grocery store. And, they had to walk out. You would tell your family, like, hey, if you see me walk out, you walk the other way and I'll meet you, And so I don't have any problem with that because, I mean, it is, we're dealing with high-risk people. It's not like a local police department that's doing a traffic stop, and if they were masked up, then yeah, you would be like, why are you, for issuing a citation? But in this particular case, they're going after gangbangers, they're going after people that have criminal records, and people that might have cartel nexus. So yeah, I mean, I don't have any issue with them trying to protect their face, because it's not like they're gonna be able to hide it. If you're arrested, like the officers, the agent's name's gonna be in the report. You can do a FOIA and find out who was in that operation. So it's just, but I don't have no issue with that because they're just trying to protect themselves and their family.
Yeah, if we didn't live in a world where it was so easy to dox somebody, I think we could have a conversation about how it wasn't necessary.
Right.
But the world that we live in and the risk that it could put not only the agent but their families into,
right.
I have a hard time arguing against their ability to protect their identities as well. It's a very difficult job, and like you said, although people would like you to believe that the only people being rounded up in any of these enforcement actions are grandmothers or people who are totally innocent, that isn't the case. No. So yeah, the doxing thing is insane. People, it's like their lifelong mission or it's their new occupation to do that. And if there's going to be people out there doing that and we still want people to enforce our laws, we're going to have to find a balance here.
Yeah, you're going to have to find and we're not reaching that balance right now.
No, we definitely aren't. How did you find your way into this world? It was one of the things in the documentary you kind of said yourself, like, I didn't know if my dad was going to be too stoked with this decision.
Yeah, so just a history. I'm a first generation American. My parents immigrated from Mexico. From my mom from Sinaloa, my dad from Sonora. But my dad used to cross illegally back in the 40s and 50s, which was a much different time, right? There was really no terrorist threat against the United States. We hadn't, it was more of a time where it was kind of like people in America wanted those people to come over and work and kind of help them with businesses in the United States. So it was different. But with that being said, like there was times where this is way before I even thought about being a Border Patrol agent, where my dad would be talking with his brothers and they would be talking about, the time that they got beat up by Border Patrol, and they would remember the bad stuff about it, right? Of course, because that's what sticks in your head. But along with that, they remember some good. It was equal, but it was a different time, right? Like I tell you, it was a time where Border Patrol agents were wearing that trench coat that you see, right? So the majority of Border Patrol agents at that time or federal agents were Anglo, right? I'm not saying it, but it was. They couldn't understand the plight of the immigrant coming up to try to make a better life for themselves. So yeah, I mean, like I really wanted to do something because I grew up in the border, and I grew up in El Paso, in Socorro actually, where at the time that I was growing up in high school and stuff like that, it was like the Juarez cartel was like the biggest cartel. And right across the border was Amado Carrillo Fuentes, which was the biggest drug lord, like. To this day, even bigger than Pablo Escobar,
really?
Bigger than Chapo, by a lot. It's just that there wasn't social media back then, so So, but yeah, he was the biggest. So it was right across the border, right? So a lot of individuals that I knew that I grew up with, they either got involved in that or they got killed or they went to jail. But that little town, the majority now it's bigger, right? At that time it was real small. Like there was every other house almost was a stash house or was a lookout point or was something, right? So first of all, I learned the lingo. I know how they would operate because I grew up in that. It's like, that's what, you knew that's what was happening. And then I wanted to do something for the community. So I rehearsed it over and over. I wanted, I thought my dad was going to be, he's macho Mexican was, rest in peace. But I thought he was going to be like, are you fucking stupid? Like, why would you want to? But so when I told him he looked back and he was like, you know what? I think that would be good for you to do it because they need people, Border Patrol needs people like you that are going to be able to humanize, the experience, is going to be able to kind of relate, kind of explain, the how to do it, immigrate legally. But he did tell me, like, he said, like, the drug cartels go after them 100%. Like go because those people, they have, you know, they don't deserve to be alive is what he told me. He was totally against drugs, totally against the cartels. And, you know, he just told me, hey, you know what, remember, you know, treat everybody with dignity and respect. Like treat them like they would, like, you know, like you would want them to treat me. So I just kind of fell into it. It wasn't really, you know, something that the undercover work aspect of it, it was just me being a knucklehead, right? Because I was a rookie agent, trainee agent, and I hadn't even finished my probationary period.
I love this part of the documentary where you just started answering the phones.
Yeah, it was. There was a lot of like the walkie-talkies. So and
were you just working at a border patrol checkpoint at that time?
No, it wasn't a checkpoint. It was I was actually patrolling.
Okay.
It was out in in Fabens, Texas, which is about an hour away from El Paso.
Okay.
It was a Wild West out there, man. It was like if we had 3 agents on duty, we were fully staffed, and it was 45 miles of river and 100 miles up north. So for 3 agents, right? So yeah, I mean, most of it was narcotics work and drug work. So you got to realize the people that they hire to drive over those cars, or you know, the mules is what they call them. They're not high ranking members of the cartel, right? It's just somebody that they say, hey, drive this car. Yep. You know, we'll give you $200. So I knew that I would be able to get away with kind of like, because they don't really know that person, right? So I would hear him on the radio, like, hey, where you at? And I would, you know, answer back in Spanish, like, hey, I got scared. The Border Patrol was right behind me. But where are you guys at? Oh, we're at Walmart, or we're here, we're there, right? So I would, they call it a Border Patrol tuxedo, because I would actually remove my Border Patrol shirt with a badge. It would just be with a white T-shirt and kind of see who was answering the phone, and then work that load, right? And so I was just being because I figured, like, man, I don't want to just catch this dude. This dude doesn't do anything. He's not gonna give me any intel, nothing. So like I had mentioned before, that at that time Border Patrol had a specialized unit. It was an anti-smuggling unit. It was special agents within Border Patrol, and the supervisor kind of started noticing, like, man, this kid is, you know, he's doing a bunch of stuff. I mean, he's got balls, you know what I'm saying? And they kind of pulled me over to work with the special agents, and I started working undercover from there.
Well, balls is one thing. Your understanding of the people that you were dealing with is another thing too. I don't know if you can actually teach that.
No, and that's exactly right, because there's a lot of people that have the misconception or this understanding that just because I have tattoos and, you know, I grow a goatee or I grow my hair, I can work undercover. But you know better than that, like, you know, some of those guys would get so nervous that, you know, their carotid artery would start, and so a lot of people that were disillusioned, because there was, you know, we had a specialized training where we would kind of you can't teach undercover, but kind of gauge how a person would react in certain situations. And, you know, you would look at a guy and be like, man, that guy looks like a freaking outlaw motorcycle gang guy. I mean, you know, he'll be good, but then you put him in this stressful situation, and they know that it's training, it's not even real life, and they would lose it.
They just lock up.
They lock up, and, you know, and so I mean, it's just like you said, it's just something that some people have it, some don't.
Yeah, you were saying that in the documentary, that essentially the key to undercover work is just your brain. You're figuring stuff out on the fly. Right. Because there's no like checklist for, okay, if this happens, I'll do this.
Like look, Andy, like, for example, like I was saying, a lot of people have this Hollywood conception of undercover work, right? That, you know, that they find out you're a federal agent, we're going to kill you, we're going to kidnap him, we're going to whatever, right? But the actual danger in undercover work, and where the majority of undercover operatives get hurt, is when you sell that persona so well that crook he's convinced 100% that you're not an agent, and he wants to rip you off, right? So you're going to deliver, like, you know, a lot of the stuff was transportation. I was going to deliver a load to Ohio or wherever, right? And the guy wants to keep the money and keep the drugs. And that guy's not going to tell you, like, hey, you know what, like in the movies, you know, let me see your hands or whatever. He's going to wait until you turn a little, and he's going to shoot you right in the head. There's no backup team. I don't care how close they are. There's going to be able to beat that bullet, right? Yeah. So that's the whole danger in doing UC work. And so, like I said, there's guys have been doing it for decades, right? Guys that I know personally, I don't know how they do it, because it's so stressful, and it's, you know, it's I mean, it's just something that you, like you said, you either have it or you don't.
How does somebody come back? And I don't mean to like the agency. I mean back to normal life after doing 20 years, 10 years of deep undercover work.
it's hard because, for example, your mind plays tricks on you because example, I did a deal once where I was at a strip club and I had to meet a guy, right? And we were talking about moving cocaine to Chicago, I think, or somewhere, right? So we were talking, and you're talking to the guy and you're trying to convince him like you're a badass, right? And he is a badass. He's not a badass in the sense that you know that he's killed people in Juarez and all that. So he's telling you like, hey, this is how it's gonna go down, right? And you're saying like, no, this is how it's gonna go. I don't want anybody to follow me. I don't want any tails. I'm gonna deliver your shit, but this is how much you're gonna pay me. And you're going back and forth. Now you're negotiating, sometimes $1 million deals, right? You're negotiating. I'm gonna get this much money, and you're spending money, in a situation where you're trying to portray that that you're part of the cartel. So you're spending money and you feel this high. You're like, I'm a badass. And you're an alpha male, first of all, if you want to do undercover work. You're an alpha male. You want to show that you're the badass. So you're way up here, right? And you're negotiating your yes, whatever. And then the deal ends, and then you go home, and your significant other is pissed off because you left the socks. You know what I'm saying? You didn't put them in the hamper. And your mind is like, are you fucking kidding me? Do you know who I am, right? And so there was...
I do $1 million deals over breakfast.
Right, exactly, right? And you're mad at me because the socks... Yeah. So it was real hard in relationships. There was a study that was done, and I learned this going through an undercover... not the operative school, the supervisor school where you supervise, where they entrust you to supervise other agents. And it was Bob Delaney, who was an NBA referee. I don't know if you know who that is. Mm-mm. Bob Delaney was a famous NBA referee who actually worked undercover against the mafia. Really? It was at the same time that Donnie Brasco was working the mafia. As a matter of fact, They cut paper on each other. They both didn't know that, right? So, but what happened with Bob Delaney is that he got so involved in that he kind of, when the operation finished, like, cops didn't trust him, right? Because he learned that language. He learned how to speak like an Italian. And he said, like, I went broke because when I was working undercover, I was spending the government's money. So it was nothing for me to go and buy a meal. So all this time that I lost away from my buddies, and then I went back to being a cop. Well, I was trying to buy their trust, right? So I would tell them, hey, let's go have beers on me or whatever. And he went broke because he could never regain that trust back. So he actually went through a real hard time, which is coincidentally, that's how he became an NBA referee. Because he was so messed up in the head, this is his words, he was so messed up in the head that he had to find something to do. So he started coaching, he started refereeing, amateurs until he made it to the NBA. Well, he gave a course on undercover work, right? He would go to the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center and kind of teach, tell you his experience. But he told me something that resonated with me. He said, like, in America, right? In America, and this was like over 20 years ago. But he said in America it's a 50-50 divorce rate, right? So you're flipping a coin. You get married, you flip the coin whether your marriage is gonna last or not, right? In law enforcement, it goes up to about 70%.
Yep.
70% of law enforcement, goes through, in undercover work, where the majority of work is working undercover, it's almost 90%. You're almost guaranteed that you're going to get divorced because of the fact that I'm saying, how are you going to go home and you have lipstick on the collar? Yeah. And you're telling your wife, like, hey, that was work. Like, yeah, okay, that was work. But that being said, I think that a lot of us, me in particular, used to use it as an excuse to, like, hey, it's my job. I got to go to a strip club. Hey, because you could have said...
Not that I want to, right, I have to.
Right. Like, and you could have said, like, if that guy wanted to meet you at a strip club, you could have
met him at a bar.
Yeah, you could have said, like, no, it's too loud, man. Let's go over here and then we'll go to... Right? But you're like, hey, I'm doing my... So a lot of it, leads you to be like, okay, I'm going to do it where you didn't really have to. I mean, it was fun. I'm not going to lie. It was fun, but it's not conducive to a relationship.
I feel like if you do that much undercover work, you should be issued a private island somewhere and you can just go get your head straight for a few years. Yeah. Or you'd have to do a job like the basketball referee. You would have to find something that is so different in every way from what it is you used to do. I can't fathom living that level of, I guess it's a lie, a charade, whatever you would call it, that is required to be, especially like we're talking decades. My God.
The bad thing about that is, and this is where your mind really fucks with you, I'm sorry, I don't even know.
We're on the internet. You can say whatever you want.
This is where it really fucks with you is that you need to be somebody that you trust in order for them to deceive you. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Like, so when you're doing a UC job and you're dealing with these guys for months, right? You develop a relationship with them whether you like it or not, right? There was individuals that I dealt with that I broke bread with them and their families, right? And had these guys not been cartel, I was thinking like, man, I could actually hang out with this dude because this dude is like, he's a family man as far as that's concerned, right? There was an individual that I knew that was a family man, went to church every Sunday, was loyal to his wife. Like everything that you're thinking like, this is a good dude, but motherfucker was even bad people have good traits, right?
Yeah.
And so when you betray that trust that guy has in you, that look that they give you, like when they realize like, oh, fuck, it was you, right? That look, and then what are your parents, at least my parents always taught me, don't be a tattletale. Don't do anything against your friends. I always say the truth. Don't backstab them, right? But you're actually doing that, and I don't care. I would hide it as like, fuck that guy. You know what I'm saying? He's doing this, but like at night, I would be like, damn, I kind of wish that guy would have said like, I don't want to do it. Like, nah, I'm gonna go straight. So yeah, it does.
It's a mental tug of war.
Yeah, it fucks with your head.
I imagine that it did, or it does. Yeah. Okay, so you started Border Patrol. HSI was stood up in, what'd you say, 2003?
2003.
Did they just pull from other federal agencies to source HSI originally? How'd you end up working with them?
It just merged the old Immigration and Naturalization Service and Customs Service. They kind of merged.
Okay.
So that's how Homeland Security was created. But
was it optional for you, or did you?
No, it was. I mean, in law enforcement, I mean, I don't care what anybody says. You want to be a special agent, right? Because that's the fun spot. That's the
Being special sounds fun.
Yeah, and you get a take home ride. You're out doing plain clothes. You don't have to worry about shaving and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I was already trying to get promoted to that when it merged, right? So I just merged and I kind of just fell right into it.
And then, again, like you were describing, what is the Border Patrol zone on paper? Like 50 miles from the border, essentially 100 miles, something like that?
Well, it's 100 miles, I believe, from the border.
But then it goes to HSI, right, for the interior? So
no, HSI has authority in the borders too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so HSI has authority, and so does Border Patrol, right? In essence, they have immigration authority.
They're just trying to break up the workload that way,
right.
I guess?
Well,
okay.
yeah, I mean, it's the duty was like, they handle the border, the 25 miles of the border, and I think it increased now, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But that's what they were going to handle, but no investigative work. No, you're not going to be doing, like I was doing, like knucklehead, going, if I was doing that after DHS I probably would have been fired.
Really?
Oh yeah, because I mean that's like
outside of your purview.
Yeah, and it's outside of policy. No undercover. I mean no backup, right? It's just you and your gun, and you're going over there. You're catching the knuckleheads. Sometimes I had like 3 or 4 people on the ground with one gun, and I'm calling my supervisor. Hey, can you come help me? And they're like, well, I thought that you were processing the load. I'm like, no, I came over here, and you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It was a different time, right? Like now, it would probably, like I said, I'd probably be fired.
So how did your job change when you went from Border Patrol to HSI?
It was more high level investigations, right? It was more
all cartel based, essentially.
For the most part, for the most part, because at that time is when the cartel started getting involved in human trafficking and human smuggling. Before it wasn't.
What was the flip? Why did that switch flip? Why? Because it was essentially narcotics before, right?
Yeah.
Exclusively.
Right.
What year? Can you point if you had to look at a calendar, could you say kind of what year they made that switch?
Around 07 or 08.
Really?
And the reason being is that at that time, the Sinaloa cartel, which was Chapo, right? Chapo Guzman. First of all, he tried to go and take territory from the Gulf cartel and the Zetas, right? And he tried to do it kind of like with an invasion force, for lack of better terms. He sent men to go into Nuevo Laredo, which was a stronghold of the Zetas, and try to wrestle that plaza away from... With force, right?
Wow.
With force. And that's when the bloodshed started, right? Because like they started losing a lot of men. Chapo started losing a lot of men. And so if you're always involved in warring against a different cartel, you're not concentrating on making money smuggling dope. So a lot of those operations suffer. Now, this is the how they evolved to where Like, for example, if I want to smuggle cocaine into the United States, right? If I want to get involved in the game, right? I can't just go and say, hey, front me 30 keys of coke, I'll pay you later. No, you have to come up with some collateral, or at least half of it, and then you're responsible for the transportation of those keys, right? So let's say I want to get involved. They give me the 30 keys, I give collateral, and then I hire somebody to take him through the checkpoint, right? If at the checkpoint a canine alerts and that contraband is seized, you lost it. Now the bad guys, the cartels, are not going to say like, oh well, nice try.
It happens. Buddy.
Yeah, it happens, right? even though they're gonna demand paper, they're gonna demand something saying like, hey, on this such and such day, so you can show. But they're not like, okay, it's cool. They're like, no, you need to pay that. So now you know, or else your life, you're in danger, right? Now, think about it the flip side with aliens, with human cargo, and I hate to put it that way, but that's what they
That's
are.
how they treat them too.
With human cargo, they come with the money, right? So the actual cargo itself is saying, here's $30,000, smuggle me. I don't have to come up with those $30,000. The only thing I need to do is get those $30,000 and decide how much I'm going to pay the truck driver, decide, you know, if I have somebody that's corrupt at the bridges, how much I'm going to pay them, and then the rest is mine. So there's no, you know, it's just simple money. It's almost 100% profit for them, right? Where with drugs, it's a more risky situation.
Plus, you're not going to get the drugs back, and if they fail in their attempt, they might come right back to you and pay you again.
Yeah, exactly. Like if illegal, undocumented immigrants would get busted at the checkpoints, most of them, if that's their first time, they're going to get a voluntary return to Mexico. And guess what? They're calling you. Hey, you know, I'm here or whatever, you know, and so that the product comes back to you. So it's almost like a and then at that time, now it's a little bit more stricter, but at that time the punishment for human smuggling was almost nothing. It was like a slap in the wrist for the most part. It wasn't, you know, the AUSAs at that time, they didn't find it appealing. They didn't find it, you know, they kind of it was almost like it was a victimless crime. Hey, these people want to get smuggled. They're paying somebody. It's not like, you know, it's not now. It's a little bit more sought. That works a little bit more sought after. Like, let me give you an example. I did a UC case in El Paso where it was a truck driver that had a dedicated run from El Paso to Las Cruces every day, Monday through Friday. That's what that was his run. He would start in El Paso and in Albuquerque, right? He was so well known by the Border Patrol agents that manned the checkpoint that they were like, he would go and take them presents or like cookies or whatever.
Every day, right?
Yeah, he even was proud. He told me that on video that one Border Patrol agent had given him a Border Patrol hat, right? So, but what they didn't know was that he was actually smuggling at least 10 people per day. And what he would do is he would put him on top of the Aerodyne, the air, you know, the air.
It's a little scoop for aerodynamics.
For aerodynamics, there's a little void there. And he would squeeze him in there like sardine. Now, he would guarantee you that he would get you to the bus station or the airport in Albuquerque, right? For $10,000. Think about it. Every single day.
100 G's a day.
A day, tax-free. And I got introduced, like I was going to help him because I had a CDL license, whatever.
Yep.
I remember going into his house. I kid you not, Andy, there was money everywhere. There was money there was money.
Oh yeah, because he's getting paid in cash.
In cash. There was money everywhere. There were high-end boots that were like, talking about $3,000 boots, cowboy boots.
Yeah.
That the guy bought and they were just there. And give you an example, I got introduced to that organization by a girl, a female, right? So when I was in there talking to them, you know, arranging all this stuff, the girl got cold. And the wife of this guy told her, "Hey, go get a jacket from the closet." So she goes and gets the jacket and she put it on. Then when she puts her hand into the coat, she comes out with 2 watts of money, like 100, right? And the wife is like, "Hey," and the bad guy was like, "Oh shit, I didn't know that was there." Like they had so much money but he would always say, "I know one day I'm gonna get caught. I know one day I'm going to get caught, but all my money is going to Zacatecas. They're not going to really do anything to me. I'll probably get 5-10 years. Yeah. But all my money is already in Zacatecas. I have a ranch over there, and you know, so it's just a cost. Like whenever they arrest me, when I get out, it's going to be time for me to retire."
Was he trying to get that paper money back south of the border.
He was getting it.
Yeah.
And we missed so much of it. Like, we missed so much of it because the AUSA was trying to get evidence on this guy.
Yeah.
That we missed so much. But yeah, from what we understand from the intel that we received, like, they had a huge sprawling ranch in Zacatecas.
Yeah, probably paid for it in cash.
Oh, in cash.
I think it was, Michael, will you look this up? I swear the stat is Pablo Escobar at peak drug running operation was willing to accept losses of tens of millions a year from mold due to the paper money that he had.
Yeah, he had problems with rats too. Rats
just, we're talking rooms that were like this entire room, floor to ceiling in hundreds.
Yeah.
What?
So to this day, they still find barrels of his. I don't know if you've seen that. Like,
no.
If you look it up. Yeah, like every now and then there'll be an obscure thing from a farmer that a farmer was tilling some land and comes up with a barrel full of money. It's all
God. The rat tax, roughly 2.1 billion, was written off annually for spoilage. $420 million per week.
Think about that.
I have a hard time thinking about that. That's like $1 billion every 2.5 weeks.
And Amado Carrillo was way bigger than this guy.
How is that possible? It literally just existed in a time where nobody had the ability to share information like we do.
Yeah, it was hard. It was hard to trace money. It was hard to do financial investigations. It was very, very, very hard to cooperate. And Mexico has always been, in Colombia too. I mean, we all know that. The elephant in the room. I mean, the corruption is rampant there, right? So, and a lot of it has to do with.
Speaking of finding money, farmer finds $600 million. Here's
Nick, this is like all the time. They found more.
Here's the most important question: does he get to keep any of it?
I don't know how the rules in Colombia work. I doubt it. I
might report finding $300 million.
Right.
Actually, let's be honest. Let's not be greedy. I found $595 million.
Yeah.
I don't know what you can fit in your pockets, but. Yeah. Can you imagine burying $600 million and forgetting where it is?
Yeah. He had him everywhere. The thing about it is that I think that currency is so old, like those dollars are so old that you're not going to be able to spend it.
No, it probably comes apart in your hands. Yeah.
You would have to take it to a bank for them to, and it would have to be a U.S. Treasury bank for them to give you new cash.
There'd probably be some questions.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think you're allowed to wheel a 55-gallon drum into Bank of America.
They would definitely raise some questions.
I think they would let you in and you would hear a little... Yep. As they were on the phone with the local FBI office to come ask a few questions. Man, that is crazy. So the guy knew he was going to get caught, but was just setting up his lifestyle for his family. Right. Probably, man.
Think about it. That's $100,000 a day.
I can't fathom that.
And like his trucking company was under the family name. Never hauled a legitimate load. Never.
Really.
Never hauled anything.
How did he not get any scrutiny from the Border Patrol checkpoint? Not even a once over. Because I don't know a lot of the stuff you guys have there, but you'll see sometimes these horrific images where people are stuffed into compartments. It looks like X-ray, but it might be magnetized or whatever.
Right.
Like these cutouts, or you're finding, in the documentary they were drilling out floorboards and then that was physical product, not necessarily people. But man, in all that time. It's wild that you caught him via intel as opposed to necessarily just a random stop and check at the checkpoint.
You got to think about the vast numbers of vehicles. Can you imagine how many vehicles go through the I-10 checkpoint?
No.
How many trucks?
Exactly. I've gone through the I-5 one down by Tijuana. Yeah, it's every single day. It's especially at rush hour before and after. It's just slammed all day long.
And not only that, but there was a few instances where the Border Patrol was doing their job and really scrutinizing loads coming in. And they backed up the highway so much. There was an accident. Somebody got sued. And so when it gets to rush hour, the supervisors are like, hey, get this traffic out of here. Get it out. We'll get them next time. And so just the sheer numbers of it tells you that there's a lot more going on than was
tens of thousands per day. Wow. Yeah, that is almost... unmanageable. And that's why they will throw so much volume at that, because they know that I would imagine to them, they look at it as kind of a tax.
Yeah,
yeah. Like you'll get some of this, but the vast majority of it will make its way through.
Yeah.
Today's episode is brought to you by Brunt. Have you ever needed a work pair of boots, ordered it, worn it around for a bit, realized it didn't work for you, and have been able to send them back with no issues? Because I haven't. And that's one of the things I love about Brunt. Brunt thought that philosophy was BS, so they got rid of it. They built tough boots that feel great from day one, no break-in, no sore feet, because people out there doing real work shouldn't have to choose between comfort and durability. They sent me a pair of their Omen boots, which is the first pair of boots I've ever had that didn't have laces other than a set of cowboy boots. Slipped them right on, true to size, super comfortable, durable, and I've been wearing them now for about 8 months. Of course, I'm not wearing them today when I'm doing this ad read, but they have been fantastic right out of the box. Brunt was tired of the workwear brands out there that were cutting the corners. You work too hard to be stuck in uncomfortable boots that don't hold up, so they built something better. Boots that are insanely comfortable and built for any job site. So for a limited time, listeners get $10 off at Brunt when you use the code ClearedHot at checkout. Just head to bruntworkwear.com, use the code ClearedHot, and you're good to go. After you order, they're probably going to ask you where you heard about Brunt. Do me a favor and tell them you heard about it from me or the show. Speaking of the show, let's get back to it. Wild. How long did you do undercover work for?
I did undercover work until I got promoted in 2009.
Was it tough to leave it?
Not at the time. Now I miss it.
Yeah,
I think, like I said, I fucked around and got promoted is what I say. You know what I mean? Because now it was so much fun. I think I left a lot on the table, right? Like I remember when I was a supervisor, my guys would come in and say like, hey boss, this is an undercover deal. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And I was like, I wanted to be like Bovino and be like, hey, I'm going to go out there. But I was like, oh, fuck, you guys don't know how good you have it, right? Because here I'm dealing with budgets and, you know. But you know what? You know what what's funny that I always tell people is that when I was working on the border, right, doing UC, working against the cartels, I thought that was the maximum. Like I thought nothing can be more important than fucking working against the cartels and trying to, you know, try to take them down, high-level targets or whatever. Then my ass got shipped to, I got promoted and I got shipped to Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, right? I was the attaché, the special agent in charge of at that time, the Riyadh office handled Afghanistan, they handled Egypt, all the Middle East.
And this is why you were at HSI?
Yeah, I was with HSI. So I got sent over, but, you know, I didn't realize, I knew about the Muslim, and the Jewish conflict, kind of knew it. I just never realized it. And let me tell you who made me realize it, right? When I was there, we were negotiating. I was a senior DHS individual there. And we were negotiating what's called an advanced passenger information from the Saudis, right? 'Cause we know the majority of the terrorists came from Saudi. So what DHS was trying to negotiate with the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia was that they would give us advanced passenger information on everybody leaving the kingdom, not just people that were coming to the U.S. So it's a big political thing. So we worked on it for months, right? Verbiage, all this. And at that time, Michael Chertoff was the Secretary of Homeland Security. So I'm not very diplomatic, but I had to deal with the higher ups of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So finally, after months of negotiation, the king of Saudi Arabia said, okay, we're ready to sign it, right? So I call, my contacts in Homeland Security and said, hey, when can Mr. Chertoff make it? Because the king is ready to sign the agreement and it's on this date, right? So then they get back to me and they said, okay, Mr. Chertoff would be here on this date and leave on this date, which was like 8 or 9 days. And I thought, that's ridiculous for one signature. And I was concerned because I'm like, I have to take care of this guy. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm in charge of his protection. Even though he had Secret Service, but he's Homeland Security. I need to, so I called back. I had a meeting with telecom with the headquarters, and I'm like, hey, why does he want to be here so long? Like, who does he want to meet or what? And they're like, I just fill his schedule with whatever. Just fill it, right? And I'm like, all right. So I try to find as many meetings as I could or whatever. And I'm thinking like, motherfucker's just coming to chill, right? Like he wants to be away from DC, see this Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. But so anyways, he gets here on the date that he's supposed to sign, right? So I called the Ministry of Interior and say like, hey, my boss is here. He's ready to sign. Can we go over to the palace? And they're like, oh no, the king will see you tomorrow. Okay, so then we go tomorrow, and then, oh no, the king will see you the next day, right? The king will, and this was day after day. And I'm thinking like, man, it's a good thing that he came for so many days. And it wasn't until the last day that we had to go meet the king up in what do you call it? Like a little tent that he had out in the desert.
I know what you're talking about, yeah.
Yeah, but it was huge. It's air conditioned. That was the biggest buffet I have ever seen. to be honest with you. So, and it was on the final day. So that's when they actually signed the agreement. Chertoff and the king signed the agreement. The meeting lasted less than 3 minutes. The guy was uninterested. He shook our hand and that was it, signed or whatever. And then as we're driving back, because Chertoff had a beer in my house, which is pretty cool because it's Saudi Arabia. And I had the Secretary of Homeland Security at my house having a beer. But anyways, he was going, I was like, hey boss, I'm glad, it's a good thing that you booked so many days here. He said, Oscar, I knew that he wasn't going to want to see me right away because I'm Jewish, right?
No way.
Yes, that's what he told me. I'm Jewish, and he didn't want to seem for the rest of the Arab world that he was conceding to me coming in. So he was going to make me hold on as long as possible. And then at the last minute, decide just to save face. And I was like, damn, like those politics I have never experienced in El Paso, right? I would have never been like, and that's when I started realizing like, man, it's the policies and the politics in the world are so complex.
Yeah. Yeah, they are complex and they are nuanced and they are going on all the time,
right?
Everywhere. Wow. Where'd you go after that posting? Over inside?
I went to Monterrey, Mexico.
Relatively violent, I have heard at times.
A little bit violent. Yeah, I mean, we had our fair share of close calls, but like I said, it was different. It was different times then.
Still working cartel there as well.
We're working against the Zetas.
Yeah.
We had high level, which is another thing that I wanted to bring up, and I wanted to get your feeling on this, right?
Okay.
So for us, U.S. law enforcement, U.S. military, PTSD is a big problem, right? PTSD is something that is documented, that is clinical, that you can say this individual is it's stricken with PTSD, right? Mm-hmm. And for a U.S. law enforcement agent, if you get involved in one shooting or one critical incident, man, that's a career, right? It's like, oh shit, that's the guy that got into a shooting and whatever, right? Mm-hmm. So you're kind of like but I dealt a lot with Mexican military, and I dealt a lot with Mexican special forces, federal special forces.
Yeah.
And you don't hear that PTSD is a major problem with them, right? Like you don't hear that, oh, yeah, the guy is not working anymore because he had PTSD. As a matter of fact, I have a real close friend of mine who ended up being the head of the Chihuahua State Police, right? And there was times where I would call him, like we had plans to go have lunch or whatever. And I would call him and he would be in the middle of a firefight. You could hear the gun bullets going down range.
That's a good friend that will answer that call.
And he would call me like, hey, what's up? And I'm like...
I would be like, voicemail.
Right.
First off, I actually wouldn't touch my phone, but...
He was, I mean, and then when you would sit down and talk to his men, right? Like his hierarchy, they would be talking about, like me and you were talking about, like, oh, this guy was dead. But they would confuse shootings. So they're like, no, that was a shooting that we had in Morelos. No, that was a Cancun shooting. So... Like, my question is, like, why, like, is it something that they don't, like, is it their mentality that, or is it something that we kind of copyrighted and became owners of it? That's my whole question. I've asked a lot of people, and they have different.
I'm certainly no expert in this by any stretch. I can hypothesize, and that's all it would be. In my experience, just because people don't overtly talk about any impact that it may have. And there's a lot of people who can put on an incredibly good face for a really long period of time. And what I've seen, again, and I'm not an expert on this, but what I've seen is it starts working its way backwards. And almost always the thing that suffers the last is their professional environment. That's where they can keep a grip on keeping everything together and that presentation of that everything is fine. And it starts away from that, whether it be whatever it may be, sleep issues or stress issues or family issues, and then it slowly works its way to that, and sometimes it just unwinds. You look back at like the greatest generation of the U.S. fighting World War I and World War II, they were oftentimes talked about and how stoic they were. They never talked about anything. And I was just recently having this conversation with somebody on the show. I wonder, and I posed the question to him, like, how much suffering was occurring behind the scenes? Yeah. What did that look like? The alcoholism or the substance abuse? I don't think we have copyrighted post-traumatic stress by any stretch of the imagination. It might be more in the forefront.
Right.
My suspicion is that, as a species of Homo sapiens, I don't think there are small segments where trauma doesn't have any impact. If you're a psychopath or sociopath, maybe, but that would be a small fraction of the number of people who would want to do that job. For everybody else, my guess would be that it is manifesting itself if they have issues with it, because also not everybody has the same issue. You could have 6 people in a situation that respond to it completely differently. Different memory, an immense, too much stress for somebody to handle, and then honestly something that doesn't even register on the scale for somebody else. And I don't know why that is. Maybe that's upbringing or just mentality or what you came out, that's the DNA mixture of your mom and dad, and like for whatever reason you're good at dealing with that. But for most people, it comes out somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know an immense amount about that culture, and saying meaning I don't know if that is something that is culturally acceptable to talk about. Like, because one thing that has shifted in the U.S., I would say specifically with men coming from either law enforcement, first responder, or military backgrounds, it's like, don't sit with that by yourself. Share that with other people. I don't know if that's the same thing in the Hispanic or Mexican culture down there, because if it isn't, it doesn't surprise me that they would be dealing with that quietly.
Yeah, and I could get that, right? And I see that, they're probably struggling with it internally. But I mean, it's got to be manifested, like you hit somewhere, right? And here in the most part, how many of our friends have committed suicide, right?
Far too many,
that were dealing with PTSD. You don't really hear that in Mexico, and so that's where I would say I'd be able to quantify it. I'd be able to say, like, yeah, they're just not talking about it, but look at the number of suicides with soldiers and the number of suicides with law enforcement, but you don't see that. And yeah, it might be culture, right? It might be like as a Mexican macho, you don't want to show that you have weakness or whatever, but like you would think that it would be and I'm sorry I threw this question. I went on.
I enjoy questions like this, because honestly, I never thought about it in the difference between, God, what a horrendous statistic to view back and forth, right? But again, the stats are out there, so you might as well look at them and maybe they're useful. Is there something that is different? Because the number in the U.S. is wholly unacceptable for people from the background of military, law enforcement, first responder. If it is lower there, I have no explanation for why that may be.
I would love to do a study or have somebody do a study.
Somebody should. It's way smarter than me.
Yeah, because like I said, they would talk about it, and I of course, like you say, you don't see it, right? It manifests differently, but you would think that there would be a high number of I mean, there was just the fact that you're losing, colleagues. There was 50, I think it was 52 murders last year in Sinaloa itself.
Yeah,
52 law enforcement murders, right? People that are law enforcement. You would think that just even that you would be, I mean.
Can you imagine if there was 52 targeted law enforcement murders in like Chicago?
It would be.
Holy cow.
Yeah, but that brings me to the next thing, right? I'm glad you said that, because this is the difference between Mexico and the U.S. When I was working in Mexico, I'm not going to say where because it'll identify the person.
Go broad.
Right. So I had information from a source, a snitch, that told me, hey, boss, he even brought me a map. In this general location, there's 5 bodies that are buried. In this, and they were all in one general area. Yeah. There's 10 bodies here. And I'm like, how fuck does he know, right? And I'm thinking, this guy's full of shit, right? Like, I'm thinking it's bullshit. It can't be. So I'm like, all right, he's looking for some money. But he had been on point on other things. He had missed some, but he had been on point on some other things. So I gave that information to the state police from that area. And sure enough, but I just gave him one location. I said, hey, there's a guy that says that there's 5 bodies here, and one of them is a U.S. citizen, which is where I come in. It's my interest to kind of give closure to the family. And they say, yeah, we'll go out there and look at it. Sure enough, they dig, and there's 5 people, and the guy that he had said is right there, right? So I'm like, damn, I'm talking about hundreds of bodies. So I start telling the authorities, hey, there's bodies here, there's bodies there, right? So sure enough, they go and do they go out there and they start unearthing bodies. And so the information is panning out, right? Then all of a sudden they stop doing it. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? So I called the authorities. I called the Attorney General's office, and I'm like, hey, what's going on? Oh, we're going to resume this, next week. We need more, that area is real hot with cartels. So we need more help from Mexico. So I'm like, okay, that makes sense. Wait a couple more weeks, nothing. I finally call a meeting with this individual, right? And I'm sitting in his office, This is a attorney general, big guy, and I'm telling him like, hey, you know what's going on? And he tells his men, hey, can you leave me in the room with Oscar by myself? And I told my guys, yeah, go ahead and leave me. So he tells me, Oscar, like, it's not like in the United States. If I come up with 200 bodies that are murdered, those bodies are on me.
Yeah,
I'm responsible because I didn't keep them safe. He says in the United States attorney would become famous because he investigated the murder of 200 people. It's not like that here. First of all, I'll probably end up dead. I'm going to lose my job for sure. But then he tells me this, which is, to me, was astonishing. I'll tell you what, when it's a slow month for murders, we'll go and unearth 2 or 3. We'll go,
we'll use this as our fishing hole, our little honey hole.
Exactly. Whenever they can afford to find. So it was like at that point. I don't know how it is now, but I'm just talking from experience of what was going on back then.
Can you fathom if it ever were to come out like a chief of police had said something like, hey, if it's a slow murder month, we'll just go pull a body or 2 out of a place where we know their bodies?
Exactly.
Oh my God.
You know, and that's the complexities of working in Mexico.
How bad is the actual corruption there? Because it depends on who you talk to, the answer that you get. Cartels have no influence, they're fringe. Cartels have deep influence, and their tentacles are into everything.
Yeah, they're everywhere, right? They're everywhere because you're seeing it more now with the politicians, the narco-políticos, what they call them, the narco-politicians, is that, and it goes back to what's always been said in Mexico. It's either plomo or plata, either lead or silver, which was an old saying, but you either get killed or you're going to take our money, right? Mm-hmm. So, I mean, in a way, I see why you would start taking bribes as a politician there because, you know, you're either, going to get, very few of them are doing it and you've seen the ones that do it for God and country, they want Mexico, they usually end up dead, right? The other ones, they start off like, oh, I'm here to fight corruption, and eventually something's going to come up where, somebody was paying, but I mean, I think it's not a necessary evil. I don't want to word it that way. I want to say it's something that the Mexican economy needs to operate, right? Because, I mean, that's money that's injected into their economy directly. They say that oil is the number one export in Mexico is what they were saying, or one of them. But I think that, drugs and the money that's coming in, because it's like feeding a junkie, whatever their drug of choice is, without any backing. You're just feeding it. And what happens when you stop that? I mean, the junkie's going to go crazy, right? It's going to start robbing people, unfortunately, that's our neighbor, right? You don't want your backdoor neighbor. So it's something that, something that's a necessary evil for them to, I'm not saying it's like everything's corrupt, right? But there's very few people that I would trust in Mexican government.
Is it possible, do you think, for Mexico, the government of Mexico, to separate themselves from the cartel, or are they too interwoven at this point?
They're interwoven. Like, for example, in Juarez, the Juarez cartel is Juarez. The Juarez cartel is Juarez. It's the economy in Juarez. It's people in high-ranking positions and television networks, and it's been woven into into the society, right? That is a Juarez cartel. It's not, it's not like the economy in Juarez and the way that the businesses started going up. It was because of the money that was injected into the economy by the cartels, and a lot of them have family ties, and so that's why it was real hard for what Chapo had been trying to take the Juarez cartel forever. Forever he wanted that. Nobody can take the Juarez cartel because the Juarez cartel has been passed on generation from generation, and it's very hard to lose a hold on that.
Yeah. What, obviously you worked cartels for a very long period of time. Was there anything that surprised you about the organization itself, that maybe a misconception you had before going in and you realized that they were either way more sophisticated or they just did something that you wouldn't have expected them to do so? You know what?
The only thing that really surprised me is when all this violence started happening, with the beheadings and all that stuff. And I can point it directly as to why it happened, right? It was the fact that the Zetas, right, special forces within the Mexican military. They were actually started to go after the Gulf cartel, which was Ociel Cárdenas at the time. So they started hitting, they started taking down a lot of his men. They started arresting. They were doing their job, right? So Ociel Cárdenas was like, who's this new unit? They're not regular military. Like, they're really hitting me. So he kidnapped one of the guys and kind of, told him, hey, go tell your boss that if he leaves the military and starts working for me, like, this is how much I'm going to pay you, right? So that's what happened. They defected as a group. The boss said, hey, we're working
defected from the military.
From the military as a group, right? They defected and they started working first as bodyguards for Ociel, and then they started doing operations but you got to realize that the majority of the hierarchy of the Mexican cartels, right? Those were old school cartel members, right? It was smuggling routes and hierarchies that were started even from the Prohibition era in the United States, right? The majority of the Mexican cartels started from Sinaloa, which is coincidentally where my mom's from, but starting in the areas in the mountains in Sinaloa, and they started smuggling liquor, tequila, to Americans because the Prohibition era. They was making the money. Mm-hmm. Like during World War II, there was a ration on candles.
Really?
Because there was blackouts. There was rolling blackouts in the United States because they were afraid the Japanese or German were going to bomb us. Yeah. So a lot of people did their nightly stuff with candles, and there was a ration. There wasn't, or it was expensive, or they can only have a few. So they started smuggling candles into whatever the Americans wanted is what they were going to smuggle, right? And then later it became opium, and then marijuana, whatever, right? Mm-hmm. Whatever was wanted, but all these guys, they knew the rules, right? Like their grandfather was cartel, their father was cartel, now they're cartel. And for the most part, they didn't want to heat up the plaza. They didn't want the government mad at them, right? Because they're making money. There's no reason for us to go after the government. The government's getting their cut. We're getting our cut. Everybody's happy. Everybody's eating, right? So I mean, even stupid stuff like rules that you would never, you try not to kill somebody if they're with their wife or their children, with their family. That was
almost like rules of engagement.
Exactly, right? Yeah. Like you would, even to like, we would joke in high school if we would see a guy with his girlfriend or his kid or whatever, it'd be like, oh, he probably lost a load, right? Because, shit like that, right? Because it was just common sense, like you wouldn't do that. Well, all that was lost with the Zetas because the Zetas, they didn't have that lineage of cartels, right? They were military. The majority of those guys were poor people from the rural areas of Mexico. They got into the military, and they don't know anything about the hierarchy of the cartel. They just know that with the Mexican military, they were making $50 a week, and now we're making $300 a week, and we get the unlimited use of new vehicles, or they're stolen, but hey, unlimited amount of cocaine or whatever. And so that's where a lot of that started, because when the Zetas and the Gulf cartel, they broke apart, the Zetas are military. What do you do when you're in the military and somebody hits you? You strike them back. Yeah. You're going back. And that's what started happening. They didn't
escalation.
Yeah, they escalated, and then they started getting like they tried to do intimidation, which is where all the beheadings started and all that stuff. And that's what really shocked me, that I never thought that just by the Zetas doing that everybody else was going to employ the same tactics. And now it's almost like if you look at these websites, right? Like it's almost like who can be more brutal, who can be more sadistic, right? And it's something that I never foresaw it happening. I mean, I always knew about the structures. I always knew like that somebody was getting paid in the government. Mm-hmm. You kind of always knew who the plaza bosses were, even not because you were in law enforcement or just because of you, like the news used to. I remember when Ociel Cárdenas got arrested, which was the head of the Gulf cartel, and he got extradited to the United States. The newspaper actually said Ociel Cárdenas names Lascano as a new head of the Gulf cartel. So is that now?
Just getting the word out.
Getting the word out. I mean, isn't that, that was kind of like Chicago in the 1920s where, Al Capone or whoever got killed, and now this is the new boss.
Man, what is the state of the cartels now in Mexico? Who's in power? You hear a lot about like this, the Jalisco new generation cartel. What are you seeing now as far as the power structure in Mexico with cartels?
The Jalisco Nueva Generación is extending, and Mencho's extending, right?
Was that an offshoot of one of the existing cartels?
Yeah, it was the Familia Michoacana.
Okay.
Right, and so you see him influencing more and more in different states, right? And I think what helped them expand is the fact that Chapo's kids, the Sinaloa cartel, and Mayo, the Maiza, which is the other head of the cartels, they started fighting within each other, and he kind of did an allegiance with the Mayos and kind of extended his reach to the Sinaloa area. But yeah, I mean they're the strongest cartel, but they're still like Juarez remains as the Juarez cartel. It's hard for them to lose that. The golf cartel is still there. The Zetas are still there. Whatever they want to name themselves, Nueva Generación. But Mencho is the one that's really, really running stuff right now.
If you were, is that you or me?
Sorry, it's me.
No worries. The war on drugs is an interesting one. Mm-hmm. We've spent a few dollars as a nation on it.
Right.
I don't think we could really drag that one into the W column as a win. Do you think it is winnable at all? And if you were in a place where you got to write policy on how the U.S. dealt with the cartels, given your experience with them, what would that look like?
I mean, we have the technology and we have the means to stop the flow of narcotics into the U.S., believe it or not. We can do 100% inspection on every vehicle that's coming into the United States and do an inspection on everything, run x-rays. It would be tedious, right?
Yeah.
It would be hard. But then what are you going to do to the economy, to the commerce coming, from both countries, right? If you're inspecting 100% of the containers that are coming into the United States, I mean, you're going to
the pace of the border is going to go to a crawl.
Prices are going to go up. So we do have the means to do it. It's just, how I think that one thing that did surprise me, right? You could say that kind of shocked me was that, these boats that are coming out of Venezuela that started getting shut down by the military, right? I think that would be a way to do it. Start, like, for example, if you send the special forces in to get Mencho, right? You can show that anybody's touchable, right? Because right now Mencho says, like, I mean, he brags about it that hey, Americans, come get me, like he's ready for them and stuff like that. So
I think we just had a guy in Venezuela that was talking
he was
that
saying
too.
That, yeah. But there's a big difference between Mexico and Venezuela.
There is.
There's a huge difference. Like, I was told when the president took office the second term, and I actually did a podcast that day, and he had just named all these criminal organizations as
terrorist organizations,
right? And they asked me like what does that mean? Why is he doing that? And I said, he's just it's just rhetoric. He's just saying what he promised in the campaign is, the only difference of naming somebody as a terrorist organization, and the Kingpin Act, which the Kingpin Act takes all their funds. They can't travel, like members that are cartel members that are documented, they can't freely travel, away from Mexico and stuff like that. I said that the only thing that it names it is, the only thing that changes is by naming them terrorist organizations, so you can use the military to go after them. And I doubt that'll happen. Boom, it started happening. And I was totally surprised because that elevates the game. You know what? Because the official word is these are cartel members, right? But how do you know? Like, are you 100% positive they're cartel members? Second of all, are you 100% positive that they're carrying, narcotics, right? Are you 100%? And if you have the intel that's telling you that that's what they're carrying, then you have the intel to intercept them, right? Interdict them, find intelligence. Where was it going to? Get the telephone numbers, exploit those, find out where they're going. And by you just killing them, you're becoming the judge, jury, and executioner, right? And
I can tell you, based off my experience with military intelligence, 100% is not a number that is used often, if ever.
Right.
So, and I don't even know what there. I've never been involved in a kinetic strike like that from a platform other than talking to platforms on a radio, which there is no. It's a very flat chain of command. If you have the authority to release the ordinance, you're talking to the guy in the airplane.
Right.
In these, I feel like there is a little bit more of an extended chain of command, and somewhere in there's the JAGs, right? The Judge Advocate Generals. It'd be an interesting conversation to have with one of them, because I don't know what level of certainty their strike threshold is at. Is it 80? Is it 85? Is it 90? Because 100 is just impossible.
Yeah,
right?
it's
The two
impossible.
numbers that I don't believe in are 0 and 100, just like that BS, 0 illegal crossings.
Yeah,
It's like, come on,
that's
man.
crazy. Yeah.
Like, just at least put 1 so
Right.
we could like,
That
we
one
can
guy
argue about that. 0,
we
it's
caught
like,
him.
0 is a little tough. If you're going to put that one up there demonstrably, like, okay. So I don't know, and I've had a lot of people ask me about those strikes. I don't know where it leads us either. I would like to believe that they are also interdicting some.
Right.
And maybe that's not making the news. And the ones that do, is that just a flex by the administration to show people what we're capable of? And from my understanding, all of the strikes have occurred in international water, right? Which is, I think that changes the legalities a little bit. But, I mean, what if they identify a cartel convoy that's loaded with whatever fentanyl or cocaine or whatever it is? What's their threshold to do something? I just feel like a kinetic strike like that in Mexican territory, that's a jump to me between the international water and then into our southern neighbor. I just don't know the legalities of that. And that to me becomes a very complicated situation.
Well, the legalities of it, if they're named as like, I think that for the first time ever, the last couple of weeks, they extradited the first individual that has been actually charged with terrorism or narco-terror. Yeah. And the Mexican government gave him up quick. Like, they arrested him, and within 2 weeks he was gone, where extraditions used to take forever to happen. Mm-hmm. And now it seems like the current Mexican administration is kind of pushing those. Yeah. Like, for us to get, Chapo and even the Treviños, Miguel Treviño and Omar Treviño, which are the head of the Zetas at that time, for them to push him forward to us right away, I think to me it's showing that the president is telling Trump, like, hey, we're cooperating, slow down, don't come into our territory.
Let's see because the drone strikes and special forces
for them. And also, I mean, I always thought that those the drone strikes on the speedboats were just an excuse to go after Maduro. Honestly, that's what I thought.
Again, I was obviously not consulted for any of those, and I'm well out of the military. I could see that world as well too. Right. And because if you look at the vast majority of what is killing people narcotics-wise, that's probably not what was on those boats from Venezuela anyway, right? Because China is bringing the precursor chemicals into ports in Mexico, and it's being brought that way. Right. A boat from Venezuela, I don't think, has the legs to make it all the way to the U.S. So it was probably some different type of substance, which may not impact even overall fatalities from overdose. So yeah, I could see where you could align that towards maybe there was a breadcrumb trail towards Venezuela. I could see that for sure. Those people you mentioned that were being extradited, does that even have an impact on the cartel though?
No, I mean, no. It doesn't, other than the fact that you're showing probably, the other people that are aspiring to become leaders in the cartels that hey, we can come get you after all, That's it. But as far as the overall operations, no, not really. I mean, was Chapo running the Sinaloa cartel? No, he wasn't. Was Mayo running? He was running a little bit more than Chapo, but I mean, these people in the hierarchies, they're not really running the day-to-day operations, so it doesn't impact them. As a matter of fact, it benefits the people that are in line.
Because they get to elevate?
To elevate, but it kind of benefits them that they have a head that they're going after. Hey, we're going to remain here, kind of low level, and let that, let that happen. And, I mean, Chapo made some critical mistakes by trying to be in a telenovela, because, he wanted to sell his story as a movie, and that's ultimately what led to his arrest.
I remember when we were texting, you mentioned that one of the first places you got sent was Montana.
Yeah.
What did HSI do in sending you up to Montana? I don't know if you know this, the northern border is completely secure. There's
there's not one. You would think there's no one. There would be one, right? After September 11th, there was a fear that, it was the last time I've been to Montana.
Really?
Yeah, there was a fear that the terrorists or terrorist organizations or undocumented immigrants were gonna come in through the Canada border, and so they wanted special agents assigned to the northern border and border patrol agents. But as a special agent, I was to investigate any possible ties, with Al Qaeda or whatever that was coming in through the northern border. I was in a little town called Turner, Montana, which I don't know if you know where it's at.
I don't.
It's in the middle of nowhere. There was no infrastructure. There was no houses. There was no hotels. Nothing. Right. So, some intelligent farmers there converted a bunch of their barns into like sleeping quarters for agents that
just
were being
entrepreneurs.
Exactly. They made a killing because they were taking all the per diem, and let me tell you, the sleeping accommodations weren't the best, right?
Yeah.
And but yeah, we were up there for a few months, in Montana.
In 2001?
2001, yes.
Wow. Oh, wow. When you said that's in the middle of nowhere, you were actually not even remotely joking. That's the part of Montana that doesn't make it onto the postcards.
I don't imagine.
Yeah, the postcards are mostly elk and holy cow.
I think that the farm, because that's where the grocery store, the farm that we were staying at is that next farm up there.
I feel like this population might be in barely triple digits.
Yeah.
Wow.
There was one bar in town and one grocery store.
Do you think enough attention is paid to the northern border and how at least expansive it is?
It's expansive, and I know they're exploiting it a lot. I know that for a fact.
How dare you say that? Because Canadians get very upset with me when I say things like that. Because their government tells them that they only seized 10 pounds of fentanyl last year. That just doesn't mean that like 10,000 didn't make it through.
It just means that that's what they caught. Yeah, I mean, it's been exploited. I think that there needs to be a concentrated effort in securing the northern border, just as the southern. I mean, it's not as well. It is porous. It's more porous than the southern border, but it's not being exploited as much as the southern border is. But it is being exploited. I know that for a fact. If you pay a little bit extra, you fly into Canada and simply walk, that imaginary border.
I just was doing a content project last week. It might actually be out by the time this episode comes out, but hopped in a helicopter and just flew along the border because people don't believe me that it looks like a stretch of mowed lawn in between a forest.
Yeah.
And so we went up towards Glacier and just caught it and just up and over some hills. And there's a road. There's a small town up here called Polebridge that is famous for their bear claws, not the actual animal bear, but like the pastry. If you keep going on that road, it just ends in a little teardrop and you can drive back down. But there is just a stretch of snow. And on the other side of that is a building that's in Canada. And we flew from west to east, and maybe it was game trail tracks, you know what I mean? Because animals will take the path of least resistance. Maybe it was people hiking, whatever it may be. But there is absolutely nothing stopping anybody going either north or south.
There's no physical barriers. I know. I mean, I imagine they have some sort of sensors, right? Vehicle sensors or stuff like that.
Those are all reactive, though.
Yeah,
maybe you got game cameras. It's like, cool, you caught somebody wearing a ski mask 2 weeks after they were there. I don't know what you do with that information necessarily.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it's being exploited for sure.
Yeah, and if I look at it, I'm like, okay, if Mexico is easier from a volume perspective, and if I was thinking about this from an organized crime perspective, I'm like, okay, we'll keep the material goods, push them through the south, but like really important people that we might want to get across. Like you said, Canada has a relatively permissive passport acceptance policy.
Visas aren't required most of the time.
Yeah, and it's like, with enough money, you can go to any one of these countries and get a passport from there and then come in. And, there's a woman named Katerina that works with the production company Ironclad that I
know Katerina.
She's talking about, you can go up there, you'll find just discarded travel documents or passports, fake names, right? And so they know that it's happening, and that's how I would probably move somebody, a high-level individual.
High level, right?
Those people, I mean, not that overdosing and drug usage is obviously catastrophic, especially for those who've been touched by it. Mm-hmm. But I worry a lot about somebody who is a sophisticated individual who has patience and time to plan and recruit. I just don't know how you stop it, though.
I would definitely, if I needed to get somebody high level into
It'd be the northern border. Yeah.
Northern border, of course.
Yeah, through Canada, through the passport system, and probably wear some layers if it's the wintertime. Yeah. But you also could choose to go. Yeah, I have some buddies who work up here for the Border Patrol, and I'm just like, I'm sorry, how many guys did you guys say you had again for the state? Yeah, that's not enough.
Yeah, I don't know how many they have, but it's probably not. Most of the agents, go to the southern border, understandably.
Yeah.
But very few come to the northern border, and And it used to be, I don't know how it is right now, but these were choice stations because...
100%. You should hear some of the conversations.
Yeah,
we're talking 15, 20-year guys who come, they're like, oh yeah, they're never leaving.
They call them rots, retired on duty. Like, hey, I'm pretty much done. They're doing their time.
I get it.
Yeah.
So policy-wise, what would you advise to policymakers on how they should deal with the cartel? Is it just always something that's going to be a give and take? Is there... I mean, how do we deal with it if it's so ingrained with our southern border and our neighbor?
It's hard. It's hard. I think that, like, as much as I criticize the Mexican government, like they're taking huge strides right now with actually extraditing these individuals, right? I remember having a conversation with a Zeta, high-ranking Zeta member that was kind of mocking me, like, "Hey, you're never going to extradite me. Like, I live like a king in Mexico, and and they're extraditing them now. So at least we're getting that satisfaction that we're going after these high-level individuals, and so I think that's a big step. I just don't know. I mean, I don't know how are you going to gauge, what effect all that is having on how the cartels are operating right now. I mean, it's kind of hard.
Would they, like you're saying, a cartel member would say that to you when you were doing non-UC stuff, like maybe when you were down there in Monterrey, just there as a representative for HSI, would they avoid you or would they talk with you?
They would talk to you.
Really?
Yeah, they would. I mean, they would call. There was a individual, a very infamous individual, La Barbie. I don't know if you heard him. This guy was born in Laredo, Texas. Played football, All-American guy, but he had dual citizenship. Started working for Beltran Leiva, which was a big cartel there. He was a millionaire. He was making a lot of money, right? But he was an American citizen, right? And so when the Zetas and the Gulf Cartel started, or Beltran Leiva started kind of fighting with each other, I had just gotten to Monterrey from Saudi Arabia. I was literally unpacking my books from my office, and I get a call, and this individual from the operator tells me, "Hey, there's an individual that wants to talk to the new ICE boss." And I'm like, "All right, patch him through." So I patch him through, and he tells me, like, "Hey, my name is," I forget what his first name was, Villarreal, but he said, like, he said his name, and I was like, "Yeah, that doesn't mean anything to me." I was new to the area. I hadn't gotten the briefings yet, right? So I was like, "Okay," and he goes like, "La Barbie," right? Like the Barbie, like a Barbie doll. And I'm like, "La Barbie?" He goes, "You don't know who I am, huh?" And I'm like, "No, but that's a fucked up name for a cartel member," right?
Totally.
He was saying that he was feeling the heat, right? He wanted to start the process to turn himself in. Right?
Oh, really?
So he called the ICE, and unbeknownst to me, I didn't know who it was, right? Because I hadn't gotten the briefing. Like a day later, that's when I got the briefing from DEA, from ICE, from ATF, and that's one of the guys that came up. "Oh, La Barbie is," and I'm like, "La Barbie?" So I started looking at my notes. What the fuck did they call me yesterday? Right? So I mean,
that means it makes the investigation easy. Yeah, a little bit easier when they call you.
Yeah, but no, they don't really hide it in Mexico. I mean, there's been agents that have been stopped and like, for example, when we would travel from the nearest U.S. office in Monterrey was Laredo, right? And then we would, so whenever we would cross into Nuevo Laredo, that's a big Zeta, and as we were driving south to Monterrey, you would see the vehicles following you with the long arms. Like, you would see the guys looking at you with the long arms. And at first, we were like, what the hell? So we would call our intermediate, the guy that had direct contact with the cartels, and be like, "Hey, there's a vehicle following us. Like, what the hell's going on?" They're like, "No, yeah, boss, we're just making sure that nothing happens to you on your way out of the city." Because they wanted you to go into Laredo and then get the hell out. So, wow. I mean, a lot of the times they were there, and they would just look at you like, like, "Hey, you're traveling in our city."
Wild. Are you familiar at all with the Operation Fast and Furious?
Yes.
Okay.
I have a funny story about that. So, not funny, because nothing's funny about it. I have an interesting story about it.
So I did not pay nearly any attention to this when this was first being disclosed or talked about. And I was listening to a Rogan episode, I think it was with Mike Benz recently, and he was talking about how it was very similar to the Iran-Contra and a way to get something accomplished outside of the purview of what they were told they were able to do. Can you break down what that operation was? Because now I'm a little bit fascinated by it.
Yeah, so basically what that operation was, an ATF-led operation that wanted to follow the gun trail, right? People that were buying...
The Iron Road, if you will.
Exactly. They wanted to follow that, and basically they had informants that were actually delivering these weapons to the cartels, and then when the guns were seized in Mexico, right, and we were running, we would see that, oh yeah, this is one of the firearms that was purchased by this individual. So we'd kind of see like the time to crime, right? The time that it was
flash to bang,
the time that it was purchased to the time that it was seized in Mexico. It was just a way of furthering the investigations. I was going to tell you a story about that back in 2011, maybe 2010. I don't remember exactly when it was, when Fast and Furious happened, but it was during when it was starting. I was acting, because at that time I was the assistant special agent in charge in El Paso. I had come back from Monterrey, and it was during Christmas time, and my boss, the special agent in charge, left, the deputy left. So guess who was running the show? Me, right? They're like, hey, you're in charge. Nothing happens during Christmas. So I'm like, all right, cool.
I think you mean to say nothing has happened during
nothing
Christmas.
has happened. So our agent in charge of our Deming office, which is an office in the outskirts in New Mexico, called me, and he tells me like, hey boss, I'm gonna run a ops plan through you, and it's basically what it is that they're gonna buy some weapons in Deming, and we're gonna help ATF all the way through as it makes its way to Columbus, New Mexico, into Mexico, right? I'm thinking like weapons that are not working, right? And
this is where I get a little bit weird about this theory, because if they were real weapons and they were allowed to go into Mexico, you are facilitating the death and violence of people in Mexico.
Exactly right. But so he tells me like, okay, so we're gonna be, and I'm waiting for the punchline, right? I'm waiting for them to say like, oh, we're gonna stop him at the border,
or
right?
no firing pins, or something.
Right, something like that. And he wasn't telling me anything. And I was like, literally, and I was about to say it was Christmas. I was like halfway home. I was gonna say like, yeah, fuck it, do it. What can go wrong, right? What can go wrong? But then the more he told me, I was like, Bart, that doesn't make sense. How does that make sense? Like, these weapons are operating weapons. Yeah, they're going straight from the shelf into Mexico. And I'm like, but how does that make sense? And he tells me this. I remember this like it was yesterday. He was like, boss, the AUSA already authorized this, right? Like, it's already authorized. We're just trying to help them because they need manpower to do the, whatever. And I was like, that doesn't make sense to me. So no, I'm not going to authorize it. And he gave me like, that's why we're not an elite law enforcement agency, because we don't take risk. And I'm like, you can ask the boss when he comes back on Monday, or whatever the time was. But no, that would have been probably one of the only times that ICE got involved in a Fast and Furious thing, which I thank God right now that he opened my eyes and said like, yeah, don't authorize it.
I don't understand how there were any measures of risk mitigation.
Yeah, it was ill-advised. Yeah.
I don't understand. But like, who comes up with a plan like here's an idea. Let's send weapons down to Mexico. Yes, they're definitely going to be used in the commission of crime. Definitely, most likely, violent crime.
Right.
And so even if they were able to trace them through that Iron Road, what are you going to do with that information?
What is the end result? Exactly.
Yeah.
It was ill-advised. It wasn't a good operation. It wasn't, but that leads me to another thing, right? And we say that Mexico right now is doing that push again. They're saying that, I don't know what the percentage is, what they're claiming now, that 80% or 85% of the weapons that are seized in Mexico, are coming from the United States, right?
That doesn't surprise me, though.
But like from experience in Monterrey when I was there, and from Juarez too, but more specifically Monterrey, that's not an accurate way to word it. It was, at that time, it was like 90% is what they were claiming. 90% of the weapons that are seized in a crime in Mexico are traced back to the United States. But that wasn't, the true phrase was 90% of the weapons that are traced are coming back to the United States, right? And let me tell you why. And you tell
Those
me,
are two very different things.
You tell me what this means, right? There was times where we would get called and say, hey, there was a shootout in such and such place. The last one was like, there's 10 dead. So we would be like, okay, we're gonna go out there, try to get the serial numbers on the weapons, run them, see how we can help, right? But we will go out there and there was 10 dead bodies and 2 ARs, right? what does that tell you? It would be like those two groups killed each other with two weapons. It was a concentrated effort from the Mexican authorities to take the vehicles that were stamped Sedena, which is Mexican military, or weapons that were coming from somewhere else.
Yeah.
Just to leave the ones that we know are going to trace to the United States, and that way we can pressure them and say, hey, you need to help us. Which is not. I'm not saying that it's not happening, because I know in Sinaloa, the problem with the 50 cals is out of the world. Like the 50 cals are now.
Why do they love those? That thing unloaded weighs 750 pounds.
I've never fired it, to be honest with you. I don't have any experience with it.
I
But
have only seen for real one guy carry one, and he was getting his ass kicked.
I can imagine
by the
that.
weight of this thing, which was in a backpack. He ended up shooting a motorcycle with it. But then you have like a little sack of the rounds that are like the size of this box. Not exactly that size.
Right.
But they're like maybe not a pound each. The point being this. Ounces become pounds, and if you take a 50 cal, you're taking a lot of pounds with you.
Oh, yeah.
I get it. A Barrett 50 cal looks cool, but you better wear double ear pro, buddy.
Yep.
And the people next to you, I've had one of those things crack off when I didn't realize it was about to go off. My ears were ringing for days.
I don't know if it's a status thing. I don't know what's going on, but they're having a problem with that. They've seized. I don't know how many they've seized. To be honest, but the majority of you, there's a way that ATF can trace the zip codes of where any particular weapon type is being bought, and most of them are being bought in Arizona, right?
Interesting.
And most of the weapons that are being seized are in Sonora and Sinaloa, which is where the Chapos are. I don't know why they like that weapon, but I mean,
so they're just banging it out with dueling 50 cals. Just
I guess that's what it is.
Oh.
Now they're using drones with I don't know if you've seen those videos. See if you can trace the Mexican cartels using explosive devices on drones. They're going after the military,
like in Ukraine, where they're
like
just dropping
exactly
ordnance?
like in
my.
Ukraine.
Which makes sense, because that evolution in technology and warfare is 100% going to make its way around.
Oh yeah, it's going to make around it.
Wow. I want to see the 50 cal brigades that the cartels. I need to see the size of the men carry. I'm telling you, this rifle is unwieldy, large, and heavy.
But you would think that there were. I haven't seen any videos of it, but seeing how they advertise everything, there's nothing out there that shows them, because it would be funny to see.
I will be on the internet tonight looking for that video for my own personal entertainment. You find anything on the cartel drones, Michael?
I'm looking. I have to go on X for this one.
Oh boy, it's a wild, wild place. Oh, why'd you decide to leave federal service? Did you time out, or did you had enough?
I had enough. I got involved in an incident, which still going through some stuff, so I don't really want to get in. But I got involved in an attempted kidnapping in Juarez, right?
Of you?
They were trying to kidnap me, or at least that's the version that I got.
Yeah.
And so it was right as COVID was kicking off, and I was lucky to, I mean it's on the news, so I mean, I was lucky enough. I had 15 vehicles following me, 15 Mexican municipal police, which where have you ever seen 15 units in one area, not even parked, right? So
Sicario, that's the only place.
Yeah, exactly.
Which is a documentary, correct?
Yeah. Yeah, but it was, I mean, I made it out of there, and I have full custody of my son. He just turned 14, right?
Yep.
So it's just me and him, and I was like, man, if something were to happen to me, we're with my, you know what I'm saying?
Were you aware that there was that much heat on you, or that you had hit the radar to the point where they...
No, I wasn't aware. It was a surprise to me.
Interesting.
Yeah. The only thing that, and this is another reason why I decided to retire, was that I didn't get a warm, fuzzy feeling from my headquarters. It was, you know how it is politically. That situation had just happened in Culiacan, Mexico, where the U.S. or the Mexican military, but with the help of the U.S., had arrested Chapo's kid, El Raton.
I do remember this, yes.
And then all hell broke loose, right? They started like shutting down the city, burning vehicles, killing family members of the police and all that. So since that time, the president of Mexico at that time said that he was going to question every operation that was being held by the U.S. And I kind of pushed the envelope on one operation, and it wasn't liked because it hadn't been approved by Mexico. And I mean, but the way that I saw it was like by the time it gets approved by Mexico, these guys are going to know what's going on, right? And so I kind of pushed it. They didn't like it. And the Mexican president was upset at that time that this had happened. So they didn't want to push they didn't want to make it bigger than it was. So they just simply told me like, you need to go back to the States. And I had no issue with it. I was like, yep, show me the way. I'll be there.
Yeah.
I had enough of that.
25 years total?
25 years total, yeah.
What do you make of your career looking back on it? What are your thoughts on it now?
You know what, like I was saying earlier, man, I fucked up and got promoted. You know what, like definitely.
I know exactly what you mean because even in the SEAL community, especially on the officer side, if you make it past lieutenant, which is like 03, your operational duties are probably going to involve a desk.
Right. Yeah, and I hated that.
Yeah, the enlisted side, you can just bang it out for a career. Yeah. Unless you want, I mean, you could go warrant. There's some off. You could specialize in some stuff if you wanted to. But if you really wanted to just bang it out for 2 decades, you could find the way. But on the officer side, they're like, oh, have you ever heard of a disassociated tour? You need to go to Germany to fly this desk for your career development. And people are just like, where's the nearest 6-shooter to put in my mouth?
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, like that's the only thing that I really because I mean, financially it was better. I gained a lot of experience. Like I have, a little bit of a platform where I can speak out and stuff, which I wouldn't have had if I was still doing Undercover. But man, it was so much fun. Like it didn't feel like work. It didn't feel like every day was, the supervisors didn't even want you to go to the office. They're like, don't come to the office because these cartel knuckleheads are going to have, people in the office seeing who's coming in or out.
I mean, that would be smart. Yeah.
So I simply get up, call, and tell my boss, say, hey, I'm up. Like, hey, don't worry about it. Like, go have coffee. We'll let you know what's going on. So I would just like roll the streets and, we're cruising. But every day was something different. One day you would think that you're going to be home for the weekend. And by that afternoon, you're in Chicago doing a deal in the back parking lot and stuff.
Wow.
So it was, I mean, that's what I look back and say, like, man, I should have just stayed in the street. But
yeah, but then you never know what would happen from that either. I've had those same thoughts and conversations with buddies of mine where they're not resentful of being promoted or changing their trajectory, but they fail to realize you could have such immense influence on the people underneath you by being the right person in those seats. Right. Is it sexy? No. But could you maybe enable your buddies to do some really sexy stuff? Yeah.
Yeah, you provide top cover, right? Which is I'm very proud of. Like, there's no one person is going to say that I never backed them up. I always felt that. I mean, it was a big deal. For example, if you would lose a load, right? Like if you were doing a controlled delivery of cocaine or whatever it was, and you somehow lost the vehicle, oh man, you had to cut paperwork. It was like frowned upon. People were always worried about it. My thing was like, yeah, there was a couple of loads, but was anybody killed? Was anybody hurt? I mean, those knuckleheads are gonna get their drugs through, whether it was us letting it go through and it was before fentanyl. Now it would be more. But, like as long as everybody made it home, at the end of the day, that was my biggest concern.
I have to assume that the cartel understands how dangerous fentanyl is. Isn't it a bad business plan to kill a good percentage of the people that are using your product? Or they just don't care? I mean,
most definitely. I just don't think that they don't put the care. They're getting better.
Yeah.
They're getting better because if you think about it, the overdose.
It's dropped or dropping,
right? So they're getting better. It's just at first it was just a knucklehead. Yeah, this looks like a tablespoon or whatever it is, right?
Damn.
But no, I mean they don't want to kill their people. I mean that's a way for them to get more profit, right? From mixing fentanyl with whatever they're gonna mix it, heroin or cocaine or whatever. Yeah. But no, they're not specifically targeting to kill people because it's not good for business.
I was gonna say that's a really bad business plan. What would you say? One thing I am hearing specifically around the current events in Minnesota, it's changing people's perception of those federal agencies. Oh, actually, before I even get to that question, what are your thoughts on the $50,000 bonus and the shortened training pipeline, the mass recruitment that they did? What kind of impact do you think that could have on those legacy organizations?
Well, I can go historically back to whenever any federal agency, but more specifically like the border agencies, when they would all of a sudden get this mandate to hire so many agents and train them as fast as you can and put them out on the field. I think that if you notice from the past, and you can look this up, is whenever there's a mass hiring mandate within like a 3 or 4 year span, after that, you're going to get a lot more of corruption investigations, right? So yeah, in the haste to push these people through, it's not unlike, remember when there was a big problem with gangs in the military?
Yes.
And these gang members were actually pushing people through that they know were going to pass the background.
Yep.
Get them through, get them trained military.
Take that knowledge right back to them.
Take that knowledge back to the street, right? So it's not unlike that. The cartels see that, right? Now, I'm going to get a lot of arguments from people because people will argue with me like, no, we're still doing the same thing. The background checks are the same, but not really, right? First of all, the majority of background investigators, and a lot of people don't realize it, but the majority of them, they're contractors. They're not federal employees. They're people that a lot of them are retired agents, but a lot of them are just people that just graduated from college or they just needed a job. And so basically these companies are employed by the federal government to do a background check. Now, if you're mandated to hire so many people and do so many investigations, what happens and you know the SF-86, what you're going to put there, if you're going to want to get hired by Border Patrol, by HSI, by whatever, you're going to have whatever it is, 3 or 4 references. Well, yeah, you're going to call your buddy and you're going to be like, hey, bro, they're going to call you, from Border Patrol. Oh, cool, bro. I'm going to tell them you're the best,
Yeah.
So those
you don't put your worst enemy down.
Yeah, you don't.
SF-86.
But the good investigators, right? The good investigators will see the first name and say, like, do you know anybody else that knows
they
Andy?
ask for additional numbers.
Right.
Yeah.
So then eventually you're going to find a person that is not on the list, right? So you go talk to that person and, a lot of times they'll be like, oh, yeah, he's a good guy. I didn't know he was applying for Border Patrol. But yeah. But a lot of times they're going to be like, that knucklehead wants to get into Border Patrol.
Yeah.
But
what you're talking about takes time, though.
Yeah. Well, it does, right? And these companies, they're like, hey, you stick to, and I know this for a fact from information that I get from people that are doing background, you stick to the script. You stick to those 3 numbers. They don't have a police record. Their immediate family members don't have, push them through. We'll eventually catch them down, right? But a lot of times it doesn't happen, right? So, yeah, I mean, if you're a cartel member and you have maybe a cousin or somebody that like, hey, I can push him through, and maybe you're not telling him or her at that time, I'm going to use you to give me information, but man, you're hoping that they get through and get into board, and then they do. And then after that, blood is thicker than water. Hey, can you give me information? And there's been a lot of cases, which is what happens. You can see it historically. After hiring blitzes like that, you get a lot of corruption cases, and I'm afraid that that's what's going to happen.
What would you say to people whose opinion of these federal agencies, based off what they're seeing locally in Minneapolis, has shifted, and maybe they were looking at joining the agency before, but now they're uncertain? What would you say to somebody who's on the fence like that? Like they had liked the idea of it, but they look at what's going on and say, I don't know. From a tactical level, like, this is not what I agree with.
Right. I think, you know what, Andy, I really don't think that it's made a big difference on, really? No, I don't. I don't. And maybe a few people are saying, I don't want to join those knuckleheads. Maybe, right? But I think that a lot of people, whenever there's a special agent position open in HSI, there's thousands of applicants. For ICE, the same thing, right? So I think that a lot of people that were on the fence saying like, oh man, it's going to take forever to get hired, or, my background or whatever, they're thinking of right now is the opportunity to do it. First of all, the bonuses, mm-hmm. right? And then, it'll be quicker for me to get in. I don't have to go through all the red tape, because it is hard to get a federal agent position. It's hard. It's, if you do the background and if you do the hiring screening right, it's hard. So I think that it's offering a lot of opportunity for people that really didn't think that they could really be employed, are saying like, well, now's the opportunity. And I think that there was a mandate to hire 10,000 ICE agents, and they've hired 13,000, which that tells you that there's a lot of people. But what I would caution them is that you don't know politically what what that means, right? Because you hear now the rhetoric from people against the White House saying you should abolish ICE, or you should because right now they're getting so much funding. I wish that I had the funding that they have right now when I was in HSI, because I would be running investigations on everybody. It was so hard for me to get funding for a Title III, a wiretap, right? Like, okay, you have to go through bunch. And if I had that money that they're offering, like they're just for operations, right? Operational wise, I mean, I would love that, right? But I think that if the current atmosphere that is going against, the agents, and specifically in Minnesota, if it continues, like if they have another misstep like they did in Minnesota, I mean, it's going to be hard for me to see ICE surviving the way it is if a new administration takes over and it's not a Republican. So I would caution myself of leaving a job. I had a call from a friend from the sheriff's office in El Paso, and he told me like, hey, what do you think? Like, I'm ready. Like he's about 5 years away from retiring. ICE is offering this, and what do you think? Should I take it? And I'm like, bro, I'd be very careful giving up that career, because you don't know. You don't know what's going to happen. And likely nothing's going to happen, but I mean, do you want to run that risk? If they do a RIF, reduction in force, we hired too many of you guys.
Yeah, they're not going to start with the most senior guys. Yeah. What do you think about them shortening the training pipeline?
Well, the official line that I've heard is that they're just extending the days. Right? So instead of training 5 days, they're training 6 days, but they're still stuffing in the same curriculum. But I don't know. I don't know if that's a fact. I don't know if that's a fact. I know that I think I said that they had gotten rid of a couple of courses that were redundant. That really you could learn in the field to speed. But I don't know the facts. I couldn't comment on that. If they're shortening it or taking out training, I mean, that's not good.
No, the data is well back on what happens when you under-prepare people for the role that they're going to be asked to do.
Right.
What are you going to do the rest of your life, man? You got a bunch of runway ahead of you. What are you doing now?
You know what? I'm a private investigator in El Paso.
What kind of stuff are you looking into? Missing cats? What do we got?
Missing cats? UFOs? No. Yes. You know what? I try to. A lot of people think that you make a lot of money as a private. I honestly, believe it or not, I help people out that wouldn't have the means to hire a private investigator, but they really need it.
What do most people hire a private investigator for?
You know what? For the most part, that's the whole thing. In Texas is for the most part a no-fault state, which means that they don't care why you got divorced.
Yeah, you can be banging everybody on the street. They don't give a shit.
Like basically, at the end of the day, it's going to be 50-50 split, and as long as there's, they're going to determine who has custody of the kids, so there's kids involved, property is divided 50. So a private investigator really doesn't make money in Texas. In California, on the other hand, man, if you can, especially if there's a prenup and you can show that the other party was responsible, and that's where private investigators make a lot of money. In Texas, it's a lot of I do a lot of missing person cases. Mexico, people that, believe it or not, it's people that go missing, and I call the South Side and be like, hey, he owed money? Tell the family, forget it. Or it wasn't the company, it's somebody else. You know what I'm saying? The company, by that meaning the cartel, right? So it's a lot of that, and then I do I do some stuff with like battered wives or spouses that are seeking some sort of evidence so they can show the courts, like, hey, this guy, or this girl. So it's just like that, and then the rest of the time, just, I don't know, go spend time with Jesse and look at all his cool cars.
God,
which is funny.
Problem is, there's not enough time to look at all of his cool cars or motorcycles. There's pistol that he pulls out for Elon Musk that has this etching on it that somebody hand does in Europe.
He didn't show you what? He didn't show you mine.
He might have. Yeah. He just kept pulling out pistol, and it's like, and this one took 8 months to create. I'm like, I don't feel comfortable touching this. Nor would I ever want to crack off around in this work of art.
Yeah. He gets on my ass because as a matter of fact, my gun is with him right now.
Okay.
And he asked me, "Have you fired it?" I'm like, "No." And like he gets on my ass, like, why would you have and I'm like, it's a beautiful piece of art. I'm gonna.
So this guy says that, right? Why would you not shoot it? He gives it to you in this beautiful box that is glass with velvet on it. I'm like, you are making me, if you want me to shoot this, give it to me in a paper bag.
Yeah. Here. Yeah. Right. Yeah. No. And he asked me once, it was I don't remember what vehicle it was. It was like, what would you do with this? It was a truck. It's one of the first times that I went to the shop. What would you do with this? Like asking me, like, and I'm like, are we talking Jesse James money or are you talking Oscar money? Because if you're talking Oscar money, I'm going to throw a couple of wheels on it and that's it. But yeah. So, I mean, basically I do a lot of I'm a Mr. Mom. I take care of my kid 100% of the time. So that's what takes most of my time. Is
there a more important job?
No, I love it. I think that everything happens for a reason, like you said. And I think I had my kid older in life.
Yeah.
But now he's just about to start high school. And I remember how I was in high school. So I'm going to be there 100%. I don't want him to. He's a good kid, but, you know, you never know, like, what he's going to need.
I feel like I was a good kid, too. But I did some real dumb stuff.
No, I did some I did some dumb stuff.
Man, I have 3 kids, 22, 20, and 17. And, yeah, you think back. Because my children, at least, seem to think that they're like Jason Bourne. They just were born as an espionage agent. And
really?
That dad would never be able to figure out what it is that they're up to. And I'm like, okay.
Been there.
Oh, what it is? Where are you guys going to... What are you going to go do? Who are you going to be with? Also, these electronic devices. Can you imagine if we had to grow up with those things? Like Life 360 alone in your pocket, constantly telling your parents where you are.
Where you are? Yeah. I wouldn't. But by the same token, if
They know how to use them better than we do as well, trust me. Yeah. But it's... yeah, even when you do your best, stand by for some surprises, Oscar.
I'm ready. We'll see how it goes.
I'm stoked that you get the opportunity to do that with your son. The full custody is a cool thing. Where can people? We've been at it for 2.5+ hours.
Oh man, that much? It
Yeah.
doesn't seem like it.
That's how you know you
I
have a
still
good
have like
conversation.
1,000,001 things to say.
What do you got? What do you want to talk about? No, fire away, dude. Fire away. What else you want to talk about?
I don't know. I lost my train of thought, but no, I mean just.
If people have questions about the cartels, or they want to talk to somebody who lived in that world specifically, as opposed to maybe just listening to a talking head on the internet, are you active on social media at all?
I am on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, X, whatever you call it. So just Google my name and you'll be able to reach me. And I'm more than happy to talk to anybody. I mean, I get questions from a lot of people, and like I said, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm not gonna, like I tell it like it is, whether it's to the left or to the right. It is what it is.
You have to be able to call balls and strikes. I don't understand again why people can't do that. You can support your team and still say, "Yeah, we didn't do great on this one. Let's do better next time."
Right.
It's when it's raining on you and you're like, "No, I'm totally dry."
Yeah.
Like nobody's gonna listen to a word you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, just but what I do want to say is like give the ICE agents and the Border Patrol agents just give them the benefit of the doubt, right? Like yeah, they did some missteps. I know that they were put in unfair situations, and maybe the leadership wasn't not that there weren't good leaders. It's just maybe a different type of leadership was needed in those situations.
Yeah.
And so I mean, hopefully they can rebound from this, and because like I said, for those. Since 2003, HSI, DHS, all the law enforcement components of the Homeland Security, they've been doing good work. They've built a good reputation, a few snags here and there. But, I mean, most of the men and women that are out there, I saw a commercial. This is the first time I saw it this morning for ICE, which was less military, for lack of better terms, because I know when they were recruiting, they were saying we're going to defend the homeland, and there was a lot of military stuff that was, you know what I'm saying? Now it's a little bit more toned down. I don't think it was ICE that put it out, it's somebody that's supporting them, but it's a little bit less controversial. So hopefully they're rebuilding their reputation.
Awesome. I got one more thing before you go. Montana Knife Company makes awesome blades. This is one of the daggers that's behind me over my shoulder. So you're probably carry-on, so I'll mail this to you. By that, I mean Michael's going to mail it to you.
Nice.
You have a new role and responsibility.
Yeah, it's going to be late.
I appreciate it. Can I open it?
Of course, please do. Yeah, they're just down the road. This is the V24. Yeah, the V24 dagger.
Wow.
Jesse doesn't have one of these.
Oh, he doesn't?
No.
He was probably boring you with his Damascus, right?
Oh, God.
I
wish I could make
Damascus.
Damascus.
Beautiful.
That's a sick blade.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Of course. And so I'll mail that down to you. Just because otherwise TSA will have a... Yeah. Can you imagine the knife collection that TSA has?
I can't.
I'm sure they all get destroyed.
Actually, which is funny because I used to participate in the like the testing of the TSA.
Oh, okay.
People.
You red sell them essentially to like try to get through security.
Yeah, and
how'd that go?
You know what? Surprisingly, I was surprised because like there was one thing that I forget what it was, but they gave me a briefcase, and I actually was wearing a suit and tie at that time. So, and there was like a little thing sticking out of something that, and that's what the guy picked up.
Cool.
He said, and I was like, yeah, but I was surprised.
I'm glad to hear that, because every once in a while I read articles like thousands of loaded firearms make their way through accidentally through security, and then people self-report on the other side of security, and they get in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, they do.
Which I'm not saying you shouldn't self-report. I'm just saying if your car is in the parking lot and you have enough time, you could exit the airport and go through security
and
again.
then come back again. Yeah, yeah, because they do.
I'm not giving advice to anyone. I'm just saying that there are creative solutions to real world problems.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree. I'll think about that. I used to. That's one thing that I do miss is, for all these years as a federal agent, all you did was bat yourself, and you wouldn't have to go through security. You went around.
Go through the other door.
Yeah, and it was fun times. Now I'm like, my kid is like, Dad, we have to wait. I'm
it's
like,
a pain in the ass. It is a pain in the ass. And then I have buddies who do firearms training, and then they drive cross country. Man, you could end up in some real trouble depending on the state you get pulled over in. There's some risk involved in that too, because the laws just aren't the same.
No, it's different. Yeah.
Oscar, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Yeah, open invite to come back anytime you want to.
Definitely.
So we got terabytes worth of hard drives. Awesome, man.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.